diverting late-night football conversation for prostitutes.
How dare you!
Chronic back pain sufferers.
Done the old back again.
And security guards who haven't quite nodded off yet. Wake up!
The Michaels, Graham and Parry on Talk Sport. For when two mics are better than one.
Look at the light!
Got plenty of time.
No, we haven't. Look at
yes,
the time.
you have. I can make time.
No,
you know,
how do you make
I
time?
can invent time.
Can you? What about someone like, I don't know, Pythagoras?
Pythagoras?
Yeah. Was he a genius?
I didn't even know he existed. I thought he was a mathematical equation. What are you laughing at?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Thanks to Tony Goldstein and Jason Cudley for the Sports Bar. They'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight. Of course, it's time to say a very good morning, however, to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Mr. Parry, very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Mike, as well. Why is the Ashes starting on a Wednesday?
I've no idea. Is it Ash Wednesday?
Well, I mean, what kind of an answer is that?
I don't know. Why are you asking me?
Because I'm asking you, because you're making a joke of it. Why is the Ashes starting on a Wednesday?
Well, if it's a 5-day
Don't
test...
test matches normally start on a Thursday?
Well, if it's a 5-day test, I suppose it has to run all the way until Sunday, doesn't it?
No, it should be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday.
Should it?
Yes.
Well, why are you asking me that
That's the
question?
normal way.
Well, if that's the normal way, I've obviously decided to change it.
Yes, it's because it's in Wales.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Well, what difference does that make?
Well, I don't know.
Canada's the same in Wales, isn't it?
No, the Welsh have decided that they wanted it to start on Wednesday, so it's finished by the start of next week.
Right.
It's their choice, it's their ground.
Right.
That's why they've done it.
Well, why would they not want it to finish on a Monday?
Because it's a working day in Wales.
Yeah. Well, it's a working day everywhere else.
Well, it is. That's right. It is a working day elsewhere.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But in Wales in particular, people have such long distances to travel to their work.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you know, down through the Rhondda Valley, down into Cwmbran.
Well, how is it any different to travel from Cwmbran into Cardiff than it is to travel in from Poole, Dorset to London?
Up to Snowdonia, you know, places like Bala Lake.
Have you gone mad?
You've got to
What are you talking about?
You've got to traverse Bala Lake to get to work.
Surely it makes more sense for the test to finish on a Sunday, doesn't it, than a Monday?
Well, traditionally they've always finished on a Monday.
It's nothing to do with the TV people. You know, the TV people wanted to finish on a Sunday.
Of course it is.
Because they get a bigger audience.
That's the answer. I was only winding you up about Wales.
Okay.
Of course, Wales is a working country. Like
as long as you're not trying to upset the good people of Wales.
No, of course not. No, like a lot of other countries.
Yeah.
And the working week, of course, starts on a Monday.
Right.
And they don't want a half-full stadium on Monday at the end of an exciting test match, which peters out then.
Maybe it doesn't reach the fifth day anyway.
Well, it might not reach the fifth day, absolutely right, in which case it'll finish on Saturday, which is the fourth day.
Yeah.
That'd be a great day for people in Wales.
Well, I'm glad we sorted that out at the top of the show.
Yeah,
because these are the important questions that people need the answers
to.
Well,
I thought you'd have it at your fingertips. You know, I thought you'd come back to me immediately and say TV rights, and I just said, yeah, OK, but you didn't seem to know, so...
Well, no, I deduced that, though, because after a while I realised that you were talking absolute gibberish, as usual, and it surely couldn't be the reason that because it was in Wales, it was being run a day early.
Not at all. Now then, is there a crisis with the Raheem Sterling situation? One asks oneself.
Well, I don't know if there's a crisis, but I mean, I imagine that Brendan Rodgers must be getting sick to the back teeth of going to this guy and saying, look, how about this for an offer? Yeah. And then he comes around and says, actually, not only do I not want your money, I don't actually want to go on the pre-season tour either. Yeah. Can't they make him go on the pre-season tour if he's under contract?
The issue here
There's a question for you.
Sorry?
Well, why can't they make him go on the pre-season tour if he's under
Of
contract?
course they can. Of course
Otherwise,
they can.
surely he's in breach of contract, isn't
he? Of course he is, But he doesn't want to play for them anyway. He wants to leave and go to Manchester City. So that's all really irrelevant, isn't it? You know? I mean, what I think... has happened here is I think the club have lost the initiative. If they'd have announced on like Monday of this week, Raheem Sterling is not going on the tour, and they could have made up a reason. They could have said, well, he's got a slight injury, or they could have said, contractually, you know, it's not the right time, or anything they like. They'd have taken the initiative. Yeah. Whereas once again, a 20-year-old boy has been able to seize the initiative from a very big and powerful club, Liverpool.
And run rings around him.
Run rings around him and dictate the terms himself.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't understand that. I just don't understand why Liverpool haven't been so... more proactive on the Sterling thing. Yeah. It must be down to the fact that Brendan Rodgers said some weeks ago, if not some months ago, he's not for sale and he's not going. Yeah. You can't stick to that.
No.
You can't stick to that.
Well, according to the back page this morning, Manchester City are now going to line up a fresh £50 million swoop. Yeah. Which, you know, to be honest, if they'd done that 2 weeks ago, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah, but you see...
all of it happened. It'll be done and dusted.
But I think the other thing that Raheem Sterling has done by, him taking the initiative and saying, I'm not going on the tour, he's put his price down. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that he's less value as a footballer. Yeah. I'm saying that his price to be transferred to Manchester City has gone down because it's absolutely obvious there's not going to be a lot of tug-of-war type policy going on. Yeah. City want to drag him to City, Liverpool want to keep him at Liverpool. He doesn't want to stay at Liverpool.
So, in fact, not only has he messed up Liverpool's pre-season, he's also now devaluing his own worth.
He is.
So he's actually doing an even further disservice to the club by saying, well, when I do go, you'll get even less money for me.
Absolutely.
That's ridiculous,
because what he's done is he might as well put a big banner up over Anfield saying, I don't want to stay here. Anybody want to buy me?
Yeah.
And in that way...
fire sale.
Liverpool have got no negotiating strength, have they, against somebody coming in and saying we're going to take Raheem Sterling
and also,
off you.
did you see that list that came out the other day of the most valuable young footballers?
Yes.
They valued Raheem Sterling
31.
as the most valuable, but only at 31
million.
Not at 50 million, not at 60 million.
No, and that means that if it gets to the really ridiculous stage where it goes to a tribunal for the transfer and all that, all City have got to do is produce that document and say, but he's only worth just over 30 million. Yeah. We were offering 40 million. Right. They didn't want that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I was Manchester City, I wouldn't bother.
Wouldn't bother what?
I wouldn't bother making another offer. I would just sit there and wait and see what happens.
Well, the idea he's going to pull on another Liverpool shirt in a competitive match, a Premier League match or something like that, is now so far away. Shouldn't Liverpool take the initiative and say, the reason he's not going on this tour, and they have to do this pretty damn quickly because, of course, it's... it'll soon be set in stone.
Yeah.
We're not taking him on tour because, frankly, he doesn't any longer represent part of Brendan Rodgers' plans for the new season.
Right.
But then play a bit of the old kind of, he can rot in the reserves type stuff, and then that's the only way they're going to get the price back up.
Have they got the cojones to do that, though? That would be the question.
I don't know. You're absolutely right.
It's difficult. A couple of other things more important to talk to you about, though.
Yes.
Number one, would you like to hear the result of winners and losers?
Yes, I would, please. Yes.
Would you?
Yes.
Now, this week it was retweet for me and favourite for you.
It was, yeah.
There was an awful lot of action, I would say, during the course of the day.
Yes.
Lots of people siding with you, saying that it was below the belt for me to list you as a loser.
Yes.
Also ridiculous for me to list Piers Morgan as a winner by people who don't particularly like him. And lots of people, I think, felt sorry for you. So the result is retweets for me, 191. Favourites for you, 272. Look how happy he is. Look how happy he is. So that's another win for you.
I could see it going that way all day.
I know, you had no idea.
I was monitoring it all overnight and all today.
It was very close for about that first hour.
No, it wasn't.
But from that point on, you were about 5 or so ahead.
So I beat you by a clear 50%.
Not as much as I beat you by last week, however.
That's irrelevant. The point is that the nominees I put up for the winners and losers were so accurate and so spell-blindingly obvious to me, and you were blind to all of that. Oh, I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful.
So it's now 9-3 overall, okay?
Yep.
So you've now got a third of the points that I've got, so you've still got quite a long way to go.
Yeah, but on that sort of basis and with that sort of initiative that I seized last night, I can't see you keeping that lead up for very much longer. I really can't.
Well, you think you're going to win the next 6, do you? We might end the competition before we have another 6.
There's a long way to go.
Well,
there's a long way to go.
No, we might have a new competition, in which case you'll never win it.
This is
not end it.
This is not a sprint.
No,
this is not a sprint.
It is a sprint, actually, because we're going to come up with something. Now, the other question I have for you: did you not say to me only last week that you weren't interested in getting a blue tick on Twitter?
I said it was a matter of great indifference to me.
Really? And you didn't ask for one?
I've never asked for one.
Have you never asked for one?
No.
We've now got one.
What?
You didn't even know, did you?
What?
Look at this man. He had no idea he had a blue tick.
Now, wait a minute.
Are you sure you're following yourself?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah? Are you sure you're the right Mike Parry?
Let me have a look here.
Mike Parry 8.
Hang on. Yeah, that's me,
You've got
definitely.
A blue tick. Have you seen a blue tick?
No, I can't see one.
You can't see a blue tick.
Let me have a look here. Oh, I see it. It's there.
See, look how happy he is.
I have the blue tick. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. And I'm going to thank Alice for that.
Who's Alice?
Alice sorted
the person
it out
you
for me.
asked to get it for you?
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Why don't you just tell the truth?
No, she contacted me and said it's been decided by the committee over at Twitter that you should have a blue tick.
The committee?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
What, you think they run it like a union over there?
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
No, they don't.
And she said you are one of the nominees, who should have a blue tick and you haven't got one.
Yeah.
This is excellent
Should we
news.
get Alice on and see if that's the way she remembers it?
Yeah, sure, yeah. In fact, she's coming to our show on Friday.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
So I'll be able to see her there.
Yeah.
I gave her a free ticket.
Did you?
Yeah.
So when you asked her to get you a blue tick?
No, I didn't ask. She contacted me.
Right.
This is a matter of great indifference to me. However, it is nice now to have been recognised by my peers as somebody significant and important enough to merit a blue tick.
What? So you would say you're now as significant and important as me? Because I've had one for about 2 years.
Yeah, but I don't know how you got that. I think that's a mistake. I think
it's a mistake.
No, I think they thought you were somebody else. Honestly,
Really?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I don't know why you merit a blue tick in the first place. As far as I'm concerned, you're a person of very little consequence whatsoever. And
well, welcome to the club.
I think it's quite ridiculous.
Welcome to the club of people of very little consequence.
That
you finally made it. You made it off the below stumblebum list.
That you
into the list of people of very little consequence.
That you should be considered as a person of any merit whatsoever, apart from rambling words coming out of that
pleased. I'm
bloom-faced mouth of yours.
I'm pleased you're taking it so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think you should be thanking me for pointing out to you the fact that you didn't even know you had one.
That's not true. That's not true. I just wanted to taunt you into actually explaining it to our millions of listeners, because I wanted it explained and laid out on the ground.
Well, welcome to the club then.
Well, it's brilliant, isn't it? I mean,
better late than never.
There are the blue tickers, and there are the non-blue tickers.
Yeah. Well,
I think you'll find.
So now you're going to be terribly snobbish about people who don't have a blue tick, aren't you?
No, not at all. No, I said it's a matter of indifference. There's nothing. What I might do is I might add it to my business card. You know what I mean?
Now, a further piece of good news for you. You might remember a lovely lady by the name of Lindsay, who you had a picture taken with in Portsmouth.
Lindsay.
Do you remember Lindsay?
Of course.
You don't, do you?
Of course I do.
Of course you don't remember.
Of course
her.
I do.
What's she look like?
She's beautiful.
Beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah. What
yes.
colour hair has she got?
Mousy. What are you laughing at? You
That's
idiot.
the one way of giving her a compliment. Anyway, here's what she sent in a little bit earlier on.
Okay.
She said, my compassion for Mike Parry is off the scale.
Right.
After the latest podcast, I volunteer myself to be your guest at future events instead of Mike Graham.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. So far...
So it seems to be a huge kind of... I mean, what I'm going to say to you is that your pathetic kind of, ramblings of the last few days, trying to make yourself out to be this sad, lonely old git with his crappy roof garden and no mates.
This is terrible...
a drinking gnome, a skipping gnome, and a ceramic duck have led some of the more feeble-minded people out there to actually feel sorry for you.
Listen,
that's what's happened.
You can't handle it.
What's happened.
In the first 12 minutes of tonight's show, I've acquired a blue tick on Twitter, making me, a very, very important person. Right. I've won the overnight battle for winners and losers by a massive margin.
Not as big as last week.
Over 50%. And I'm now getting offers flooding in from very good-looking women.
One offer.
From a woman
with mousy hair.
And do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that Carly...
The time, by the way.
Is it Carly Simon who sung You're So Vain?
Yes.
And the line in that was, every girl wanted to be your partner, wasn't it? There was a line in it, every girl wanted to be your partner, you walked into the party like you were walking somewhere else.
Onto a yacht.
That's right, yeah. And what was the line about every girl wanted to be your partner,
Maybe we'll find it for you.
There were clouds in my coffee. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, look, it's a great start to the programme. It's a great day. It's a great night. Welcome, everybody. The test match starts today. But that's irrelevant compared to the Porky blue tick.
Not that you cared about getting one or not. This is Talk Sport. It's a great song for you, this, actually.
It is, yeah.
You probably think this song is about you.
Well, I mean...
Most people think it's about Warren Beatty, actually.
Well, they do, yeah. I mean, I don't think it was about me, because... no, I wasn't actually an international playboy when this song was written by
when were you an international playboy?
Well, I became one eventually. I mean, maybe in the past now, but...
I've got some more bad news for you, actually, on the Lindsay front.
Hang on, I haven't had any bad news yet tonight, Mike. I've had just good news.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Good
I've
news.
got some bad news, because I've actually found a picture that was taken at Portsmouth of Lindsay and yourself.
Yes, very attractive lady.
She tweeted out and says, I'm sure Mike Parry said he was 5'9"ish. I'm 5'7.5" and wearing small heels. How is it that I'm taller than him?
Well... That's because, if you remember, I remember exactly where that picture was taken. No, I was standing on a step below her as we came out of the bar. Yeah, do you not remember? Yeah,
no, I don't remember that. No.
Absolutely certain, yeah. But anyway, it was very, very nice to see her. Yeah. Now, listen, I'll tell you what I'll talk to you about, right? What about this idea that Chelsea are going to move to Wembley?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Well, I'm not sure about it, actually, because although Chelsea are a big club...
Much better than Twickenham. Twickenham's not a football ground, right?
No,
they shouldn't move
agree.
to Twickenham, and that would be a bad idea.
I'm not sure about that. Twickenham's a very impressive stadium.
Not for football.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I've never seen
a football match there?
No, I haven't.
No, neither have I. No. I don't think I want to.
No, but what I'm saying is, any ground that's not full lacks atmosphere.
Yeah.
And Wembley is a 90,000-seater stadium, and if Chelsea... want to...
Surely Chelsea will be able to fill that, won't they?
No, they won't fill it for 90,000.
Why not?
No, well, you don't. People don't get 90,000. In a city like London that's got 6 Premier League clubs.
Yeah.
You're never going to fill a stadium with 90,000.
There's loads of people. I mean, for example, my son would love to go and see Chelsea's home games if he could, but it's very difficult to get tickets for him.
Yeah, of course
now he'll be able to go. And there will be thousands of little kids like him who would love to go and watch them play at home.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, they might do a kids thing, and you might hear all these high-pitched screaming, Chelsea, Chelsea, Chelsea. It'll be all the little kids
Why are you
going.
making fun of children?
I'm not making fun of children. No, I'm not. No. Have you never been to a ground in the old days when there was a boys' pen?
Yeah.
And all you could hear was, Everton.
No.
But it was high pitched because the soprano voice of the young boys at 11, of course, has a very distinctive sound.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be loud enough to drown out everybody else, surely.
Well, they will when the rest of the crowd's not chanting.
Yeah, okay.
That's when they start chanting.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Well, last time I went to a Chelsea game, I was in what they call the family section, and there's a lot of kids in there, but it's not just kids.
Oh, I was in the Dolce Gabbana bar, actually, last time I went to Chelsea.
I was with my son, who doesn't drink. He's only 10. So, I took him to a football match without bladderation.
I was in the Dolce Gabbana suite,
Yeah,
actually,
well, I'm sure very nice.
And I was sitting
you
next
didn't invite
to...
me with you?
No, I didn't.
Why was that?
Because I was sitting next to Michael Crawford, the internationally renowned actor, Barnum and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Some others do have.
Did I make a big fuss about that?
Well, no, because I didn't tell you I was going, I don't think.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And there were, loads of other very important people there. I think...
Can you remember who else was there?
Yes, I was on the other side of me was Lord Seb Coe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a friend of mine.
Pleasant for you.
Yes,
Friendly
that's right. In fact, funny enough, seconds after I met Lord Coe, he said, call me Seb.
Did he?
Yeah.
Call me Seb?
Yeah.
How super.
Yeah.
So you'd only just become friends with him then?
Well, it's instant.
I mean, when you're friends with somebody, they don't say, please call me Seb,
well, I think
as soon as you've met them, do they?
I think it was instant mutual respect, if you see what I mean. You know what I mean?
And what did you say? Call me Porky?
No,
my lord.
No.
Because you were probably going, my lord, Co, right?
Well,
because you love all that, don't you?
Well,
bowing and scraping.
Well, I think if you meet a peer when you first meet him and you're not on familiar terms, then you say, my lordship.
What?
Well, that's what I said.
Rubbish.
I did.
You don't call them by their name.
No, I don't think you can. I think that's rude.
No, it's not rude.
Well, hang on. If you met...
I wouldn't call anybody my lordship.
OK, so hang on.
Joking.
So this droll party you went to the other night, the Piers Morgan party...
I didn't go Lord Sugar.
I was going to say, how did you address Lord Sugar?
I called him Alan.
No.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Why not?
That's an insult.
No, it isn't.
You let down the station there.
Why?
You've got to show these people respect.
Absolute rubbish.
And he is a former chairman of and owner of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Chairman, you call him anything you like. I don't call people your lordship.
He's still a major shareholder in Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Well,
so I think that's showing extreme lack of respect.
I don't call people my lord or your lordship. That's ridiculous. Yeah,
I do. If
of course, it doesn't surprise me.
Now then, what I was going to say to you was, according to the reports I've been getting from the Chelsea situation, it looks like Chelsea may have outmanoeuvred Spurs, who also wanted to go to Wembley Stadium. But I'm not sure it's a good thing. I'm not sure it's a good thing, because I think you're going to play in a half-empty stadium most of the time. I mean, I'm not putting Chelsea down. Very few clubs in this country would be able to attract 90,000 people to every home game.
And the reason
season.
they've done it ahead of Spurs is basically that they've added more sort of money, haven't they? They've offered £3 million more or something.
£11 million a season.
Yeah, which is £3 million more than Spurs offered.
Now, yes, that's right, yeah. Now, that is a brilliant deal for the Football Association, because one of the things that really hamstrings, if that's a word, the Football Association is the massive bill that they've got to pay off to pay for Wembley. That's why the semi-finals have to be played there.
Would they get a piece of the action then if Chelsea have a full house there or whatever?
Who, the FA?
Yeah.
Well, the FA, to all intents and purposes, own Wembley.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They funded it.
But if they're paying them £11 million a year to play there, would they also give them a cut of the box office, as it were?
I don't know what the deal would be. I would have thought £11 million was quite enough money, to rent the place, and I think Chelsea have to look after themselves, don't they?
I would guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're right. It is £3 million more than Spurs offered, and I think that's based on the sort of prospective crowds that Chelsea hope to get when they get back to their ground of 60,000.
Yeah.
But I think Spurs are also going for 60,000, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are, yeah.
At their White Hart Lane. I tell you, it's going to be very interesting when these...
The Spurs, I believe, are on the brink of making some announcement as well about their new stadium and about whether or not it's going to be a ground share with some NFL team and anything like that that's going to be going on.
Yes. Are they... And they're building a 54,000-seater stadium, White Hart Lane. But there are reports that they actually tried to halt the demolition of Upton Park and go and play there for 2 or 3 years before it's redeveloped. But apparently, already a building company there have got, drawn up plans to put 700 homes on the site. You can't hold that up for long.
Well, also, you know as well as I do, I mean, with property prices going the way they are, people will want to build as soon as they possibly can and get them on the market before the property prices start dropping.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Talking about property prices, by the way, you know the next thing that I should invest in fact, we should all invest in, is a farm.
A farm?
Yeah, don't bother, all this buy-to-let stuff and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you think that's on the way out?
Well, it's not on the way out, but there are going to be dangers there. I mean, if interest rates start going up and people have got all these buy-to-let properties and the difference between what they're paying in their mortgage to the rent they're getting in is 500 quid a month, that's a good thing.
Sure.
That's great. But if there's a run on interest rates and they start going upwards, loads of people are going to...
they'll have to do eventually, won't they?
Yeah, they will have to eventually. Loads of people are going to say, oh, it's not such a good deal now. I think I'll flog it.
Yeah.
But the problem is then there'll be a glut of property on the market because there are millions and millions of buy-to-let homes.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, because I'm smarter than the average bear, I've been driving around the countryside looking at farms.
Yeah.
Because that is going to be the next great boom in property.
Which part of the country are we looking at?
I don't want to say. I don't want to start a run on... what
do you know in America when you say, I bought the farm, you know what that means, don't you?
It means you're dead.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's right.
So bought the farm.
I bought the farm, and you're dead. Although, I'm not sure about that because, you know, in An Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere...
Indeed.
One of his mates thought he'd fallen in love with a woman who's basically a prostitute.
Well, she wasn't a prostitute.
Well, she's a good time girl.
Well, she wasn't.
She's a kind of good time girl.
She was hoping to marry an officer. And
yes,
so
that's
she pretended
right.
she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And he offered to marry her.
Yeah.
And then it turned out she wasn't pregnant.
Yeah, but then he quit his pilot's job, and she only wanted to marry him because he was a pilot.
Exactly.
And she wanted to marry him. He was a big stupid man.
He was
from like Oklahoma or somewhere.
Like that. Yeah.
And she wanted to marry him on the basis that he might then get posted abroad.
Yeah. And she'd have a glamorous life.
No, she wouldn't go with him. No, she'd stay at home and have a lot of fun at home while he was sort of, flying enemy missions into places where they might capture him and torture him and all that kind of stuff. And
I don't think she was expecting to be tortured.
No, she wasn't expecting to be tortured.
I thought the point was she was expected to be going around to places like Okinawa and Hawaii and various other points.
Well, you could well be right. She got very angry when he gave up his job as a pilot.
She did.
To the extent where she left him, then he hanged himself.
That's
didn't
right.
he? Yeah. But anyway, the point of this rambling story
is
didn't he say, I've bought the farm, but he didn't mean that he was dead. He literally said...
Well, I presume he wouldn't have meant that.
No.
Well, you don't normally say about yourself. You say about somebody else. You say, so-and-so bought the farm. He bought the farm.
Yeah, I'm sure there's another expression about...
No, I think you're right that his parents owned a big farm.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think there's another expression in the military. I bought the farm. I mean, you leave the military.
Oh, right, okay.
It's the same expression.
I've never heard it.
No, I'm sure it is. When you're a Top Gun pilot and you suddenly decide, that you've lost your bottle and you can't fly any more missions, like that guy at the start of Top Gun.
Yeah.
I lost it up there.
I don't know that film very well.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking about with my wife and kids. And then Tom Cruise had to guide him down onto the deck of the aircraft carrier, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure his expression was, I bought the farm, i.e. it was all over and he was going back to Oklahoma or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, look, that's...
Well, thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, I thought it would. But no, I'm absolutely serious. Farmland is going to be the next great buy, OK?
I can't believe you're going to buy a farm.
Well, I might seriously buy a farm and then you rent it out, you see.
And buy-to-let farms?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Old MacDonald had a farm and all that. Seriously, yeah.
And didn't pay the mortgage?
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. And the value of farmland in this... What are you laughing at?
You can't even get that right. E-I-E-I-O.
The value of farmland in this country over the last 2 years has doubled.
Yeah.
How about that?
Really? What, so now it's worth twice what it was worth before, which is not very much.
I can tell you what, houses...
Well, farmers are always telling us how they can't make any money, though.
Yeah, well, they can't in dairy farming.
Yeah.
A pint of milk is down now to 45p.
Yeah.
It's so low that farmers can't even make
so it doesn't sound like a very good idea.
No, I wouldn't farm it. I wouldn't farm it. I would just own it, and then I'd give it to some guy, who couldn't afford a farm and rent it to him.
Right.
Or something like that.
How are you going to make any money, though?
Well, that's up to him. He could grow some turnips or something.
You're obviously not giving this much thought, really, have you?
Or something like that, you know what I mean? Get a herd of cows.
Yeah.
And
slaughter them all.
Well, no.
Get other herds.
No, get some pigs.
Slaughter them.
That's what you have on farms, isn't it?
I don't think you thought this through.
Pigs, sheep are fairly innocuous.
A fish farm. You'd have a fish farm.
Well, fish farms are owned by people like Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, true.
And then he had a fish farm that got poisoned, didn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, he did. All his fish got poisoned on his fish farm, I remember.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, we better
Bit
stop.
Bit of a blow
because,
that when you got a fish farm.
It is, yeah. Better look into light for the moment. He's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Gray with the two mics. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Ashes. Two mics, there will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course, and I'll be posting the result of winners and losers. Mr. Parry, very, very happy, of course, that he's got back to 9-3, which is the situation currently. The last Ashes series, of course, down in Australia.
On the same day as I got my blue tick, of course, on Twitter.
Which you don't care about.
No, well, no. I didn't make a huge issue of it, but it just sort of happened. And by the way, I know exactly why the Test match is starting on Wednesday. Yeah. It's pretty obvious to me. You couldn't see it, but then again, you wouldn't be able to.
Do you mean because I told you it's to do with television money?
No, it's not to do with television money.
What is it then?
Well, the fact is that the second Test is at Lord's, right? And that always starts on a Thursday, traditionally. Yeah. So what the cricket authorities have done is they've started the first one early, so it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. In order, they get a good rest of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the second Test at Lord's.
I'm told by somebody who's tweeted, I can't find now, that actually the first Test at Trent Bridge last time around in the Ashes was on a Wednesday as well.
Well, that's right.
So
because
you should have known that.
No, the second Test, you see, starts at Lord's, and they want it to be the showpiece Test because it's the home of cricket, isn't it, worldwide?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You should have known that.
No, of course I knew that. I was only I was taunting you because you didn't. That was
taunting me, right?
Yeah,
okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Never mind about taunting me, because Tony Schubecki's here, and he's from Down Under with SEN, and he's going to be watching the Ashes from a slightly different perspective. Tony, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
I'm ready for a taunting, boys. How are you both?
Yeah, we're pretty good, thanks. Won't be any taunting there because although we're quietly confident, we're also very British, so there won't be any sledging from this direction.
No, so I see the ICC have got the captains together and said, boys, this is what's going to be done. Yeah. From now on, Michael Clark lined the word to players and says that they now know the line not to cross. It'll be interesting to see how close they get to that line, though, won't it, over the next 5 tests?
Well, I mean, I'll be sorry to say to see it get too kind of anodyne, though, won't you, Tony?
Yeah,
I mean, because surely part of the whole business of the Ashes is that it's very competitive. The Australians and the English are the ancient foes of the cricketing world, and you don't want it to be all kind of, pats on the back and well done, chaps, as somebody gets bowled out, do you?
No, not exactly right, and I doesn't go that exactly. I have still a little bit of some sort of taunting. I thought that the way that not only Australian bowlers but other bowlers of many a country have given batsmen a send-off over the last year or two. There have been some ridiculous, right in your face, that sort of stuff. There's no need for that. A few words as they sort of walk off, not a problem with that at all. But, get out of blokes' faces and just leave it at that. Just leave it to the voice.
Yeah. Tony, I think Australia have come here unprepared for England because I believe that when they all got on that aeroplane and came over here, they thought they were coming to a situation where England would be lambs to the slaughter. And they've got here to find out it's a completely rejuvenated England with fire in their belly, with spirit in their hearts, and with a determination.
What are you talking about?
What?
What are you talking about?
What about?
Well, that's what I'm...
Excuse me, I'm talking to our correspondent about the Test matches. I think you'd agree with me, Tony. It's a far different scenario now to the one you might have expected 3 weeks ago.
Look, I think we've probably given you guys a little bit more respect than you did have from a few weeks ago. It was a nice series against the West Indies for you blokes, and I think you've had a fair series against New Zealand, so I think that's probably made us feel that it's going to be a little bit closer than what we felt. But I think they've missed a fantastic opportunity here with the first Test. I heard you talking about the Saturday, Sunday being days 4 and 5. Yeah. That's normally they're normally when you make all your money on the weekend. I mean, the Test will be open in 3 days, so this will be a poor grossing Test, I would have thought, financially for English cricket with this over by Friday.
Yeah, well, we'll ignore that because, of course, that's wishful thinking on your behalf, which you're entitled to indulge yourself into. But I normally find when people talk like that, particularly if they're Australian, it's because they're shaking in their boots. That's what I believe. What do you think are going to be the crucial factors which are going to turn this Test, Tony?
Well, I'll tell you what crucial factor is the fact that Australia's bowling lineup in with Mitchell Johnson being the only surviving paceman from the last time we played you guys in the National Series, which was, if I remember correctly, a 5-0 whitewash down here in Australia.
It certainly was,
so, Mitchell Johnson... Yeah, that's right. I thought I was right. Exactly. So Mitchell Johnson remains the only bowler from that. But having said that, he's got some fantastic support. Mitchell Stark is an amazing up-and-comer and has a fantastic 12 months to look forward to seeing him. Josh Hazlewood the same as Mitchell Stark. So he's got 2 young, promising bowlers that he can now mould into top-line bowlers for Australia. Nathan Lyon will provide a bit of spin. Chances are, though, he may not even get a bowl, depending on what this Cardiff wicket is doing, if it's still retains the grass, apparently, that it has on it at the moment. Nathan Lyon will probably end up being the 12th man. Shane Watson will get a bit more of a bowl. But I think our batting lineup, boys, I think it's been the most settled it's been for a couple of years. And I think that's where we're going to find our massive advantage. Dave Warner, Chris Rogers up the top. Steve Smith in Bradman-like form, even better than Bradman form at the moment for Steve Smith. Michael Clark has found a niche there at number 4. Adam Bogus is a great young up-and-comer as well, at 35 years of age, playing, his 3rd or 4th test, I think. So still a fair bit in Adam Bogus to go. So I think if Australia's going to find any sort of real guts in their 11, it's going to be in that top 6 or 7.
But aren't they going to suffer more than England are from the no sledging kind of rule, because that was all part of the kind of intimidatory stuff that went on in Australia, and they never travel as well when they come to England anyway. They don't play as well in England as they play in Australia, and without the ability to sort of perhaps try and get in the faces of the England players, they're going to lose quite a bit of the advantage, aren't they?
Yeah, you're right. It's a long time since actually won a series over on England soil, so we're interested to see whether it plays on them at all. But it's a whole new team. As I said, they've got a few new blokes in there that haven't been over to England before, so they don't know the conditions. They don't understand that, and they'll just be going out to try their hardest. But no sledging, as I said at the start, it's interesting to see where that line is going to be drawn and how close to that line and how close to over that line, especially guys like Mitchell Johnson who rely on that sort of talk and that sort of send-off of batsmen and the like to sort of, really pump himself up. So, this first test will hold a lot of keys to the remaining 4 after that, I would have thought, just to see how players do handle and move through the first 4 or 5 days.
Tell me this, Tony. How much do you guys down there and the squad that's come here know about Ben Stokes?
I think we've seen a little bit of him over the last couple of years.
Because I think he could be the surprise package here. I think he could be the difference. I think he's the man who could emerge, who could who could excite, and who could really light up the summer.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we've probably seen him more so in a one arena, haven't we? At the test arena. So I'm sure that the guys would have done their homework on him. But yeah, look, you're right. I think England needs someone like a Ben Stokes, someone like that,
agree.
Just to provide that little bit of difference. Every team needs a point of difference, and if it comes into a guy that sort of comes in a little bit under the radar, well, that could be a massive advantage for England.
Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely right. Well, we'll see how it all goes. Tony, it's not a great line, so we're going to let you go, but I'm sure we'll be talking to you over the course of the next few days. Tony Schubecki there from SEN. I don't know why you suddenly turned into kind of Richard the Lionheart there.
Why?
Suddenly banging a drum for England.
Why? Well, because I'm English. Is there something wrong with that?
Well, I thought you were British, you just said.
I am both.
Are you?
I'm British and English.
Right, and the game's in Wales, which is also, one of your many nationalities. Right?
No, it's not. No, I was brought up on the border of Wales.
Yeah.
In Chester, in fact.
In Chester, yeah.
And I went to school at a school, the King's School Chester, which is half in Wales and half in England.
Right.
So
your school was half Welsh then?
No. It was,
well, if it's half in Wales, it's surely half Welsh.
No, it's the field in which it sits, which is 32 acres of playing fields.
Yeah. If it's half in Wales, it's surely
soccer matches
it counts as a Welsh school,
cricket pitches. No,
Speaking of acres, right?
Yes.
We've got a tweet here from one of our loyal listeners who says, "My family's farm is up for sale in Northumberland." It's David has sent this in, and you can get your hands on it. It's in Northumberland, 75.1 acres, £1.1 million.
Really?
Morpeth, Northumberland.
Wow, that's a fantastic part of the world.
Yeah, and it's where you want to retire, isn't it?
Well, funny enough, there was a story in the Newcastle Evening Chronicle tonight about that very subject.
Was there?
About whether or not I'd be retiring to Northumberland.
Why was there a story in the Newcastle Chronicle?
Well, they very, very kindly, when I went to Newcastle last week to suss out the theatre where our next stage show is a week on
Saturday. Where you went to
Saturday
to get a story done on the Two Mike show.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And instead, what happened?
Well, nothing really happened except that they
did a story on you instead.
Yes, that's right.
How surprising!
Well, no, you see,
it's a bit like when you went to Portsmouth.
No, not really.
They ended up doing a story on you.
Well, yeah, but you see, Mike, you've got to get this into context. Yeah. I live in the Portsmouth catchment area in Gosport, so that's why they did a story on me.
Yeah, right.
I started my newspaper career on an evening paper in Newcastle called the Evening Chronicle, and they decided 30-odd years on to do a story about, the young cub reporter who started on a paper who comes back in a blaze of glory to star in a two-man show.
To star in a two-man show?
Yeah, of which I'm one of the men in the two-man show at the Tyne Opera House.
Did they use a picture of you?
In Newcastle. They did, actually, yeah.
Did they use a picture of the two mics?
No.
Did they use a picture of me at all?
Well, I don't put the paper together, so,
of course not,
so I can't explain that.
Well, you would have assured them that the only reason you would want a piece in the paper is to promote the show, though.
Definitely.
But they don't seem to have picked up on that.
Well...
They seem to have promoted you.
I mean, what can I do about that? I didn't write the story. I merely responded to some questions.
Well, presumably you supplied the information for the story.
Yes, of course I did,
so you must have bored them stupid with all your own stories and forgotten to mention the show.
Well, absolute nonsense.
Well, that would appear to be the case.
No, not at all.
I'll have to try and dig this piece out and have a look at it.
And there is a rider across the bottom saying the 2 Mike show, is on at the time. Opera and Theatre House. Get your tickets
here.
The
Opera and Theatre House.
It is called the Opera and Theatre House.
Okay.
Tyne Opera and Theatre House. Yeah. I never thought I'd see you on stage at an opera house. I mean, that in itself is a conundrum, isn't it?
It is a bit.
Anyway, there you go. And it's the 2mics.co.uk. It says at the bottom of this story.
Very good.
Where you get your tickets for the show.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I should look forward to seeing that because there's nothing I like more than reading stories about you in local newspapers.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. And of course, there was a story about us in the London Evening Standard when we appeared at the London Theatre.
Yeah, that was the one I put in.
Yeah,
that was about both of us.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's all right. Well, we both live here and both work here, so that's why.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And we've both worked in Fleet Street.
Yeah.
But you've never worked in Portsmouth. You don't live in Portsmouth.
No.
You've never worked in Newcastle. You didn't live in Newcastle.
That's true.
So why don't you shut your moaning mouth?
Oh dear.
And let me get on with promoting, the things that we need to promote, okay?
Has your campaign to get sympathy finished now, then? Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean?
You're going reverting to type?
No, not at all.
Start abusing me.
Not at all.
Here's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. We are the 2 Mics. Loads more coming up.
Talk Sport on DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk
Sport, we are the 2 Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. I've got some great tweets coming in, actually, by the way. Some correcting some of the things that have been said.
Okay.
But one from Richard, because you said this last week about the great views approaching Newcastle as you go up on the train.
That's right.
From the left-hand side of the train.
Yes.
And he sent out a picture from the left-hand side of the train coming into Newcastle. Don't appear to be able to see any part of Newcastle at all. You're looking the wrong way.
No.
So it's looking to the left down the Tyne, sort of inland. So you can't see the
No, he doesn't understand. It's where on the curve going into that over that high-level bridge that is so impressive. He's taken that for too late in the journey, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's one from Darren. It says, Alan Sugar has no shares at Spurs. He sold a majority in 2001 and the rest he sold in 2007, both to ENIC. And then we've got Dave who says, Porky, Spurs will be at Wembley first because they're further along with planning permission. # get your facts right. Well, that's not what most of the papers are saying this morning.
No, most of them are saying that
Spurs are going to end up in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, exactly, and that Chelsea have outbid them. And if you had to look at the resources of each respective club... By the way, see those fantastic pictures of Mr Abramovich in Scotland with his yacht?
No.
Takes a huge yacht, one of the biggest in the world, to the Isle of Arran.
Oh, yeah.
And then he wants to walk his dog.
Very beautiful up there.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. He wants to walk his dog. So all of a sudden this speedboat, sets off from the yacht to the shore, and Mr Abramovich gets off with his dog on a lead, starts walking it with 5 minders around him.
What, so he just lands on the beach and takes the dog for a walk?
No, he lands at a harbour, obviously, and the speedboat pulls up at a jetty and he gets off. But the amazing thing, I don't know where I saw the picture today, I saw it somewhere, I can't remember if it was online or something, he's got these 5 minders who are all incredibly humorless men, you know what I mean? Because that's the job of a minder to a billionaire. But I just don't get that. I mean, the Isle of Arran, as far as I know, is not a hotbed of political fanatics who lie in wait to assassinate Russian oligarch billionaires.
Well, that's true, but I mean, nevertheless, you go if you're a Russian oligarch billionaire, you go everywhere you go with bodyguards because there are people who might wish to harm you, who might follow you to a place like that and do you a disservice.
I very much doubt it.
Why?
Well, unless they've got a submarine.
No, that's like saying you only need bodyguards in certain situations. If you need bodyguards, you need them everywhere you go. Surely.
No, you don't. You don't need them on the Isle of Arran.
Why not?
Because nobody on the Isle of Arran is going to attack you.
Well, you don't know that.
Well, of course I know that.
And 2, you don't know whether the people who would wish to do you harm are not following you in another boat.
No, if they're following in another boat, they'd have seen the boat. They've got binoculars, and they'd have spotted a boat behind them.
Right.
So unless, somebody with a submarine is...
stranger things have happened.
Well, they'd have to be very strange indeed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we're talking about Mr. Putin here, and you know plenty about him, don't you?
Well, it's true.
And I mean, if he, for example, was known to be going to Arran without bodyguards, surely those who would wish to harm him would think, oh, look, he's going somewhere without bodyguards. That's a good place to assassinate him.
I don't think on a regular basis Mr. Abramovich or any of his crew actually tweet out, oh, off to Isle of Arran today. Anybody who wants to harm Mr. Abramovich...
Well, no, they wouldn't do that, would they?
See you in the Dog and Duck in Arran High Street at 3 o'clock. Bring your meat pies or something like that,
Have you ever been to Arran?
No.
I used to go to the next island along, which is the Isle of Bute.
Oh, right, okay.
Every Easter as a sort of holiday with my family.
Oh, I see. That's nice, yeah.
It's a very nice part of the world. You've got no interest in that story at all.
Yes, I have, yeah.
I mean, it was very nice. It was, in fact, I think it was where I learned to ride a bike.
Do you know what I think the worst thing that ever happened in Scotland?
What is the worst thing?
The worst thing that ever happened in Scotland was when they built a bridge over to Skye.
Yeah.
Over the sea to Skye.
Why?
Well,
have you ever been over the Skye Bridge?
No. But it sounds ghastly.
You've never been to any of these places, have you?
No, I haven't, no.
I mean, you might as well be in outer Mongolia.
No, but when I do go...
Great Britain.
When I do go, I want to be in a rowing boat over to Skye.
Why?
I don't go to Skye in a bridge, because Bonnie Prince Charlie and all that, you know.
You want to be in a rowing boat?
Yeah, of course I do.
Well, it's going to be very slow and very wet.
I don't care. That's the way you should go to the Isle of Skye. I've come down from the Isle of Skye. I don't know what you're laughing at. And I could never work out.
Red Bull tonight.
No, I could never work out why somebody wrote a song about Donald, where's your trousers? I mean,
well, it's just a stupid song.
Yeah, it is a stupid song,
isn't it? Why would you write any stupid song?
Yeah, but it's a song written by a Scotsman about Scotsmen, mocking Scotsmen for wearing kilts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's ludicrous.
Well, why is it ludicrous?
Well, I mean,
Scots have a great sense of humour, mostly about themselves.
The English don't write songs mocking themselves, you know.
Maybe they ought to do it more often.
We don't say Carruthers, where's your moustache or something like that. You know what I mean? Like Scots.
Do you think that would sort of properly describe the English culture?
I don't think so. Now listen,
Carruthers, where's your moustache?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to. Oh, we've got somebody who works here called Carruthers, haven't we? Of course we have.
Well, that's his last name.
Gilo, that's right. Yeah. Typical English.
That's not his first name, though, is it?
He's a northerner, isn't he?
Don't give his name away,
no.
Sake.
Now then, what I want to talk to you about is this.
What?
There are pictures in all the papers today of the last-minute preparations by our noble cricket team in the preparations to take on...
The one that you've just described are probably jinxed as the one that's going to beat the Aussies.
Well, I hope so, don't you? Taking on the Aussies. Now, what I find extremely odd, and I'm not sure whether I should be worried about this or it's a scandal or whatever, but these boys are playing football.
Yes.
And they're cricketers, but Stuart Broad looks like he's going in pretty hard on, on Joss Butler.
Yeah.
And is anybody else involved? No, just the two of them. And I mean, in light of what's happened to Rory McIlroy, who is a golfer who played football and has now almost certainly put himself out of the open.
You said had done terribly well by making out that he was just one of the lads. That was your view yesterday.
Well, I did. And
why do you think these guys are any different?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because they are in official training for a cricket test match, right?
Yeah. But cricketers will quite often play football as part of their training.
Well, they've got the bibs on, they've got the tracksuit on and all that. What Rory was doing was he was getting away from the atmosphere and the arena of his own sport, golf, away from a golf...
But surely that makes it worse, doesn't it?
No, away from his golf course and said to his mates...
It's not in a controlled atmosphere.
Get a football, let's have a kick around.
Yeah.
Now, but this looks like part of the training, if I take your word for it, because they are clearly still at training.
Yeah,
and I think, in fact, funny enough... One of the papers here has put a little bubble caption on. Careful, fellas, remember what happened to Rory. And I think I have to say, I think they're pushing their luck a little bit there. If anything had happened, somebody would have said, well, hang on, didn't you learn by the mistakes of others?
Well, exactly right. But I think I've heard Dominic Cork talking about this in the past. That, quite often football is a good way for them to warm up because it uses quite a lot of the muscles that they use for playing cricket.
Yeah.
And so they're quite well used to doing it. But I'm with you. The only thing I would question you about is the fact that you've got two completely different points of view on two similar things happening.
No, I haven't.
For Rory McIlroy, it's okay, even though he's now injured and out of the open, probably. But for the cricketers, it's not okay, even though they're not injured and still playing in the Ashes.
No, that's not the case.
That's completely bonkers and round the wrong way.
No, it's not the case. I salute Rory for being a man of the people and an ordinary lad who hadn't had a kick around with his mates, right? Having sustained
even though he was stupid enough to get injured.
Well, having sustained that injury now, I think the cricketers should have said to themselves, hang on, we better not start kicking the ball around. Look what happened to Rory McIlroy. I thought they might have learned by it. What you say about cricketers playing football, by the way, and I'm sure I've told you this before, last time I went to a World Cup, which was in South Africa in 2010, right?
Yeah.
We were all staying in a lodge together, including Darren Goff and our very own Ray Parlour.
Yes.
And Goffey beat old Raymondo in the Keepy Uppy Stakes.
Did he?
Yes.
Well, Goffey was quite a good footballer in his day.
He was very good indeed, and he was certainly very able in the lodge that we stayed in. But bearing in mind that Ray played in 5 FA Cup finals and won 4 of them, you'd have to say that's quite an achievement by a professional cricketer.
It is, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a nice picture here from Show Me the Money, who sent us in at IROMG, and it's Roman Abramovich's yacht in Scotland last week. And apparently he was in Rothsey on Bute cycling around, which is where I used to cycle around.
Ah, is that right?
So there you go. So he may well have been an Arran as well. Yeah. But there's a picture of him in Rothsey.
So you think you can justifiably say he was cycling round in your footsteps or in your shadow?
He certainly was. And there's a picture of the Monarch of the Glen with his boat in the background.
That is an incredible boat, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember, it was a few years ago
Imagine seeing that pulling up in the mist just off Arran or Bute or something. Amazing.
You might think it was some kind of invasion.
Yeah, you might, yeah.
But do you remember, was it not a couple of summers ago when some hapless guy who was in charge of the boat taking it down to the south of France for Mr. Abramovich, as you would call him, and they filled it up with the wrong kind of fuel.
Wrong fuel in, yeah.
And I think they put petrol in instead of diesel.
It's $500,000 worth to fill it up.
Yeah, but it cost something like 1.75 million to clean it.
Yeah, to put it right, yeah.
Can you imagine being that guy?
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
I think he might have needed a few bodyguards.
Yeah, and didn't somebody... I think it was somebody in the Arctic Circle. Somebody went on holiday to somewhere like Bergen in Norway, or it might have been Iceland. I think it was somewhere really remote, like Iceland or
Iceland's not that remote.
Or Greenland. I think
Greenland's
it was Greenland.
a bit more remote.
Greenland. I think it was Greenland, and. They took a journey in a 4x4, across some, volcanic ridge or something. And on the other side, they saw this incredible boat, so they thought it was part of the Greenland Navy.
Yeah, right.
If Greenland have got a Navy, I'm not sure if they have.
No, don't think so.
No, right, well, it probably wasn't the Greenland Navy then. And it turned out to be Mr. Abramovich again.
Yeah.
But he was on land, and I think it's the only occasion anybody's ever noted that he's signed an autograph for somebody, apparently.
Well, he obviously likes to get around in his boat.
Yeah,
Good luck to him.
Well, I totally agree with you. I mean, what I quite like about it is that instead of him just flaunting that boat at places like the south of France and
Monaco.
Sardinia, Monaco, all that kind of stuff. Puerto Banús, yes, absolutely, one of my favourite watering holes.
The whole town?
What?
The whole town?
Why can't you just listen to me explaining the moral fibre of Mr. Abramovich without getting all funny? I think it's great that he goes around to parts of the world which some people would say are not very exciting.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Scotland is very exciting.
Rothsey is a beautiful, beautiful island.
Oh, I've no doubt about it.
I can tell you some great stories about that.
Could you?
Actually.
Well, let's hear them then. Come on.
Well, we haven't got time now, look.
Well, come on, I want to hear a story.
Time.
If you tell me a great story, I don't believe there are any great stories about Bute and Rothsey and you on your bike. That's not a great story. That's a boring story.
That's when I was a child.
Fat child on bike in Rothsey and Bute.
I was never a fat child.
I tell you what. Let's write a book about it, shall we?
I can tell you a story about a woman I took there once.
Oh, yeah?
Later on, though.
Oh, really?
But I don't want to get you too excited. Oh. Now, how about this one?
And you shouldn't have been with the woman,
Smithy.
presumably.
Yeah, of course I should.
You're having illicit sex with this woman.
In a monastery.
Sorry?
In a monastery.
In a monastery. Illicit sex in a monastery. That's not a bad book. Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah, there you
getting better.
Smithy says this. Can we have a daily Mike Parry sea shanty section, please?
Sea shanty? I don't remember singing a sea shanty.
No, you don't remember much about the first hour of the show, do you? You've got that faraway look in your eye.
No,
Never
that's
mind.
not true.
And here's one from Bill in Hastings. Can someone tell Porky the only farm he'll get near is a funny farm as he's lost the plot, the numpty?
Well, excuse me, everybody in this studio is now joining in this ribald mockery.
Ribald, I think.
Ribald mockery.
Anyway.
Can I just warn people, please? I've got a tick after my name on Twitter, so just remember who you're dealing with.
Not that you asked for it, though.
No, I didn't. I didn't ask for it. It was volunteered to me. It's an indication of my status in life.
Indeed. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics, and we've got lots more coming up later on. Arash Madani is going to be looking at some of the tennis that has been going on over the last couple of days at Wimbledon. Here's a couple of tweets to read out. Woodenhead says, I think Mike Parry should write a song insulting himself, although I doubt he has enough pieces of paper.
A song insulting myself?
Yes.
Why would I do that?
Well, I don't know. You've got a talent for such things.
I could write that in 5 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I might do,
We'll
actually.
do it and do one later on.
Yeah.
Mad Max says, tell Porky it was the Isle of Bute that Comrade Abramovich went to at the weekend.
Oh, was it?
Plank Heed. So, I mean, certainly that's the picture that we've seen of him.
Yeah,
they are next door to each other.
It's
easy to confuse the two.
I wasn't confusing the two at all. How would I have known it was Arran? I didn't know Arran was near Bute, so the caption I saw was Arran, believe me.
All right. And And Zobon says, tell Porky not to jinx the cricket team because if he does, they will get destroyed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, I don't think that's true. I think that people like to blame me for jinxing things because I'm bold and I speak out and I speak my mind about what I think is going to happen in certain situations, OK? And if people don't like that, they can put it in their pipe and smoke it as far as I'm concerned.
And Tom says, oh, dear, Porky's very full of himself tonight. Anyway, MG, can we hear more about the party, please? Well, I think we finished talking about the party.
Yeah, we finished talking
I mean,
about
that's been going on and on for days now.
Nobody
I mean, even I'm bored with it. JPK says, the capricious language returns. I fear the sympathy elicited by your mocking solo party attendance may just evaporate.
Yes. Capricious. Now, that's an interesting word. In what text has that been used?
Well, it means that, your language has returned once again since, after your pathetic campaign to try and gain sympathy by making out that you were this kind of poor guy that's been left on his own and abandoned by me and, somehow socially outcast. You've now returned to your old ways, which is to make mocking kind of derisory comments about me and rather, shall we say, off-colour statements about my life.
No, I don't think so. I plead innocent to all of that. The point is, Mike, I have to take you as I see you, and I do think that one of the things I have to do, one of my jobs here at Talk Sport, is to let the rest of the nation know exactly what you're made up of, OK?
Yeah, right.
The only way I can do that is by trying to test your intelligence all the time. Yeah. Now, listen, I want to tell you...
By the way, have you heard that the unions are all backing... Remember when I accused you of being a socialist yesterday?
Yes.
Because you were against the Sunday trading hours being expanded.
Yes.
The union have backed your point of view.
Of course they have.
Thereby proving that you are indeed taking up a socialist position.
No, I'm not taking a socialist position at all.
What position do you think the unions are taking up?
Well, whatever their motives are... Well, excuse me.
I love this new noise that you make.
What?
When you get a bit confused and you make this kind of...
No, that's a noise.
Like you've got something trapped in your throat.
No, that's a noise you make. I don't make a noise like that. What I'm saying is, if their position is based on their political attitude towards life, that's fine. I respect them for that. They can have that.
You respect them for that.
Mine is based on a Christian fellowship position. I don't want Sunday to be like other days. I want Sunday to be a different day. And I don't want us all to be shopping all day Sunday.
Well, it's the same day for you as it is for every other day of the week, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Go down to Wetherspoons, have some fish and chips, get home, get more bladdered, go to bed.
Now, you see, the bladdered bit I'll ignore because that's just a joke. And that's a generalisation, a tawdry generalisation of my lifestyle, which is nowhere near accurate, by the way.
Yeah.
On the other bit... Why have you just now decided to insult the 87% of our listenership, of our millions, who like going to Wetherspoon pubs to drink...
I haven't insulted anyone.
Beer, which is priced very favourably, food, which is consistently amongst the award-winning dishes of pub food in this country.
Really?
Consistently.
Really?
Gold medals they get for it all the time for serving fish and chips.
Yeah.
Do you know...
Who do they get those awards from?
They get them from austere organisations who examine pub food. Well, like
we look it up?
Like the catering industry and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, look it up.
Okay.
And let me tell you this. On a Friday, in this country, the biggest fish and chip shop chain in the world is Wetherspoons Pubs in this country. Yeah.
Right.
They've got nearly 1,000 pubs. And if they serve 20 or 30, say 30, fish and chips every lunchtime, every Friday, that's 30,000 plates of fish and chips. I mean, that's enough to keep a fleet of trawlers going in the North Sea 365 days a year.
Oh, here we go. We've won a few foodie awards in our time. Check them out here, says Wetherspoons.
There we go.
Our sweet potato, chickpea and spinach curry recipe is award-winning.
Is it? Ooh,
That's all it says. It doesn't say which award.
Well, they've got all sorts of gold medals and things.
That's like you saying that you're an award-winning broadcaster, isn't it?
Yeah, I am.
Wetherspoon was the winner of the Best Town and Local Pub Menu category for 2011.
There you go.
At the Menu Innovation and Development Awards.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's great, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Why have you suddenly decided, Wetherspoons, let's mock them? Why have you decided that?
Our Lincolnshire pork sausage won the Gold Award from the British Pig Executive in February 2012.
I think that's very commendable.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to make fun about there.
You're absolutely right. They've won a lot of awards.
Yeah, exactly.
From lots of companies nobody's ever
heard
of.
Why do you think then that, as far as you're concerned...
Oh, here's another one. In 2008, we won the Best Bramley Food Service Company in the Brammy Awards.
That's not bad, is it?
I've no idea.
That's good.
I don't know how difficult that is to win.
Yeah, why have you decided that one of the biggest chains of pubs in this country should be subject to your continual
I haven't
mockery? Do you despise people who go to Wetherspoons pubs? Yes, you do.
No, I don't despise anyone.
Yes, you do.
All I said to you, you've tried to turn it once again into some kind of ridiculous campaign, which I'm not running. I've just said to you that you seem to spend an awful lot of time in Wetherspoons, that's all.
No, you haven't. You've gone on about fish and chips there not being very good.
They're not very good.
They are excellent. They are excellent.
Well, if you think
have you ever had them?
Yeah, of course I have.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
How do you know that?
Well, because you've always said to me you wouldn't eat fish and chips in Wetherspoons.
I wouldn't, because I've already had them before.
Oh, well, I mean, in that case, you're just a snob. Just a terrible snob.
No, I'm not.
I'm a man of the people, you're a snob. How much do you think a pint of Ruddles beer costs in my local Wetherspoons? A pint of Ruddles beer?
A pint of Ruddles beer? No idea.
In my local Wetherspoons in Gosport in Hampshire.
I don't know. You've never invited me there.
£1.65p.
Well, excellent.
Now, I mean...
Well, why would you need to save money?
How much do you think that would cost in London?
Well, I had a pint in London tonight for about just under £3.
No, £4.
No,
nearer £4. No, you wouldn't get a pint in London for £3.
I just got one down the road. A pint of Young's, it was £2.90.
And where was that?
Just down the road.
What do you mean, just down the road?
Down the road in a pub.
Yeah, what pub?
Well, why am I going to tell you what pub it was?
Because I want to know.
I'm not going to tell you.
Because I don't believe you.
Well, it's a pub that you and I used to drink in quite a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that.
Show.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I can tell you that.
Anyway.
I got change out of a fiver, right?
Yes.
I got, £1.10p.
Well, I can pay up to £4.85 for beer in London, including a packet of salted peanuts. And I find that very, very expensive, really. So what I'm saying is this, look. If I went into a Wetherspoons pub in Gosport in Hampshire with a £10 note, I could have 2 pints of beer and fish and chips on Friday lunchtime and get change from a tenner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but you go there every Friday then, don't you?
I don't go there every Friday. I'm not always there on Fridays. But if I'm not, I might go to another one because I actually think it's fantastic value for money. It's great service. The pubs are always spotless. I mean, I could almost be an ambassador for this lot. I'm not. So, and I'm not beating their drum for any other reason except that I think they're a great British institution.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk to you about a book that's coming out.
Go on then.
Because I'm on the mailing list for all these publishing houses and all that.
I do know that. Yeah.
There's a book coming out soon, which I find has got rather a strange title actually, but the author of it has been given an estimated £75,000 advance, and the book is called The Tree Climber's Guide to London.
Right.
How about that?
Why would you want a tree climber's guide to London?
Because this book's going to advocate we should all start climbing trees again.
Why?
Because it's good. It's written by a guy called Jack Cook, and he says he himself has climbed 80 trees in London.
Why?
Because he likes climbing trees.
Well, I mean, what's the benefit?
Well, it's getting close to nature, it's good exercise and all that. His book, which he punted around, right, he went to auction, and guess who won it? HarperCollins.
Yeah.
I think HarperCollins is the one owned by the Murdoch operation, isn't it? Yeah. They won the contest for the book. It's described as a charming account of tree climbing, and it's aimed to persuade adults to rediscover the thrills of their childhood by climbing trees. Now, this guy, in the synopsis to the book, it says he's 29, this guy Jack Cook, OK?
Yeah.
He was inspired to explore the heights of the urban landscape while working in an office that overlooked Regent's Park in London. He said, at lunchtime, I started climbing trees again for the first time since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And he told the Daily Telegraph, according to this release, the views over London were so extraordinary, I thought this is really a lost wilderness, I want to explore it. So he started climbing other trees.
There are a lot of beautiful trees in London, but wouldn't you say that you'd have to be quite sort of, I don't know, steady on your feet? You'd have to be quite a fit person to do it.
I'd love it.
It's quite dangerous if you're climbing very, very high in a tree.
No, it's not. You can't fall out of a tree.
Yes, you can.
Well, you'd have to be an idiot to fall out of a tree.
Well, Keith Richards fell out of one, didn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, Keith Richards has injected so many substances into his body over the years. I'm surprised, A, he's still alive, and B, he can see straight. And certainly climbing trees to him would be the equivalent to having a bad trip on LSD and thinking the tree was about to kill him, so he probably jumped off.
Maybe so.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I don't think you should start climbing any trees.
I would love to.
Would you?
I might even get myself a tree climbing tracksuit. What are you laughing?
What's a tree climbing tracksuit look like?
Well, you know, one that's...
What about just an ordinary tracksuit?
No, I think you can get these sort of...
See the time, by the way.
Don't worry about the time.
I'm worried about it.
You can get these sort of tracksuits, which... I mean, I'm not saying I'd become a tree hugger or anything like that, but they're
like a Velcro?
Well, yeah, non-slip, a sort of non-slip tracksuit, you know what I mean? So you wouldn't fall out of the tree when you're in the tree.
I don't think you're meant to shin up the tree. I think you're supposed to use the branches to get to the
Yeah, well, of course you are,
points.
but you've got to get off the ground to the first branch, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever climb trees when you were a kid?
Of course.
I loved climbing trees. I thought it was brilliant, you know, absolutely brilliant. And the one thing that we would have loved to have
trees
had...
in your roof garden? You haven't, though, have you?
Well, of course I haven't.
No.
Of course you don't have trees in roof gardens. No. What do you think the weight of a tree in a roof garden would go through the roof of the flat below, wouldn't it?
No.
But what I was going to say is that the problem with climbing trees wasn't getting up them, it was getting down them quite often.
That's right.
And getting out the tree.
Firemen have to rescue cats in trees.
Indeed, they do.
I don't think it's a good thing to encourage people to climb trees.
I think it's brilliant. And I mean, just to get back to nature and start climbing trees again, I think it's fantastic. And do you know what? You can legally climb any tree in this country without the old...
Not if it's somebody's back garden.
Well, of course it's not. But in a park, without the warden coming along saying, get out of that tree. You can tell him to get lost. The tree belongs to us.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that.
I think it's excellent.
We'll see about that. Anyway, looking to light for a moment. We've got lots more coming up. Very shortly, we'll be talking Wimbledon. We've got Ask Porky coming up in a little while as well. This is Talk Sport.
Yeah, but maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and as well as the Ashes getting underway in a few hours' time down in Cardiff, of course, we've got Wimbledon coming towards the end of the second week. The men's quarter-finals coming up in the next day, Mr. Parry. And Andy Murray's playing, of course, as is Djokovic, as is Federer. Everyone's through, really, apart from Rafa Nadal, as far as we know. Let's talk to Arash Madani, who's watching Wimbledon for us, and find out from him what he thinks of it so far this year. Arash, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Oh, very good to be with you, fellas.
So, what do you make of it all so far? There's been a couple of scares, but nothing too unpredictable so far.
No, and I guess the main one would be Nadal being bounced early, but that's been par for the course here now in the last few years with Rafa. But it's outside of Djokovic really being tested by Kevin Anderson, it's been all systems go on the men's side, hasn't it?
Definitely. But not on the women's side. Of course, Serena Williams had a big scare, didn't she? And she's now subject to a story we're all reading over here, Arash, in which she says there's sexism involved in the listing and the citing of the games, that men play on the major courts twice as often as women do.
Yeah, and I understand her frustration. I understand the frustration of Caroline Wozniak. You had the same thing to say. Mm-hmm. And you understand where the organizers are coming from. I mean, fellas, there's an American tour stop as part of the hardcore season in Washington. Effectively, it goes Washington, Canada, Cincinnati, and then the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. And they just gave Andy Murray a lot of money to show up to Washington, D.C. in early August as an appearance fee. And I asked, do some of the other big names who show up there, I shouldn't say big names, the higher-ranked players, get anywhere near that? And they say no, because those players don't move the needle. And the reality of the situation is there's probably, on the men's and women's side combined, about 10 players who move that proverbial needle, who people are interested in going to watch. And outside of Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova, with Canada's own Eugenie Bouchard now out of the mix, who is there that really, galvanizes a crowd, that gathers people around to watch? Yeah. There are few on the women's side. I understand their plight. I understand their frustration. I understand their point. There are a few more on the men's side, the big four, obviously. Now, Stan Wawrinka having won the French Open. On the men's side, there aren't that many either, but there are just more. And they're probably double the men to the women, which makes, which makes the rationale behind court placement understandable.
You're so right. If you ask most people in this country at the start of Wimbledon this year, they would not have been able to name you the existing women's champion from last year.
Petra Kvitova.
Yeah, honest God, most people wouldn't have known that, seriously, because, it's not like you've got a Navratilova doing it 3 years out of 4. It's not like you've got a Steffi Graf dominating every tournament in the world. It's so disparate now, the women's one. Apart from Serena Williams, that's it. Venus Williams is over the hill.
Let's be real, though. Let's be real. On the men's side, it's only 5 or 6 guys, too.
Well, I'd say 4. I'd say the big 4 are the only ones that...
Now, hold on.
Yeah.
Stan Wawrinka has now won 2 majors in the last 6.
No, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Right.
Big 5. Yeah. I'll concede you on that one. That's. I don't know whether Nadal's going to be part of the big 4 for too much longer, though, is he?
Yeah, and that becomes the interesting question. Nadal's one of those guys that it's just so hard to absolutely write him off, because like last year, he'll go on that magical run that he did in Paris, and you say to yourself, okay, well, obviously he's still the master on clay. He can still get it done in Paris. Yeah. But, at Wimbledon, it's now been a number of years guys where he struggled, and you really start to wonder if the body's breaking down on him.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think Andy Murray's chances are this year, Arash? Because a lot of people are tipping him to be the guy that will be lifting the trophy at the end of the week.
Well, going into this whole thing, I mean, it was Djokovic, it was Murray, and it was everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so far, Andy has shown very little to convince us that that isn't going to remain the case. Novak had a bit of a hiccup, and he's been able to continue. And after the recovery from the back surgery, Murray's playing, in my mind, the best tennis of his career. I understand what he did in London 2012. We know what happened in New York following that, and obviously at the championships the following year. But now, as a complete player, I can't remember a time in Andy Murray's career where he's been playing as solid, as consistent, and at times as dominant as he is right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with that. And I've already tipped him to win this year. In the same way I tipped him...
That may have jinxed him if you've done
Well, it may have jinxed him, but I also tipped him to win last time he won it, although I didn't expect him to whitewash Djokovic.
No, exactly right. And what do you make of this...
And that's the difficulty. But that's the difficulty, is that right now, Novak Djokovic is the most dominant male athlete on the planet.
Yeah.
Not named Usain Bolt.
And the guy that Murray's up against is a fellow Canadian of yours, Vasek Pospisil. What do you make of what do you make of Andy Murray's chances against him?
Well, I think Andy will be fine against him. Pospisil is a heck of a story. Matter of fact, with Vasek, there's a social media hashtag for the last couple of years that's been anything is Pospisil.
Right.
And he's turned a social media campaign into reality this fortnight, hasn't he? I mean, a kid who, at the start of 2013, was ranked 108 in the world, who got to 32 later that season, was effectively out the last 6 months because of a back issue, has finally now become healthy and emerged seemingly out of nowhere to get to the quarterfinals. Guys, his story is actually terrific. He has two older brothers. His parents fled from the former Czechoslovakia. They escaped. They landed in a small town in British Columbia in Canada, and Vasek just loved tennis. His father used to feed him tennis balls, and they realized if he, for a kid who was growing up on public courts with grass and weeds coming out of the concrete on these courts, if this kid was actually going to have a chance, they'd have to move to a bigger city. So they moved to Vancouver, the city of the 2010 Winter Olympics, and it was mom, dad, and one of the brothers, along with Vasek, living in a one-bedroom apartment, and every day after school, every day before school, Vasek and his dad were out there hitting tennis balls. Mm-hmm. Now we flash forward 12 years later, and here he is going up later this afternoon against Andy Murray on center court in the quarterfinals at the championships. It's an amazing story about a 25-year-old kid who's done exactly what he wants to do, and now he owns the Canadian stage with Eugenie Bouchard long eliminated and Milos Raonic out.
Yeah, no, it's a terrific story.
We're all going to be watching it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Arash, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Reporting into us from Toronto. Well, tennis is actually one of the subjects that you say that you didn't really play tennis, did you? I mean, you were such a visionary at rugby,
yes.
at football, at cricket.
Yes.
You've never spoken of tennis. You never played much tennis.
I played a bit of tennis at Hoole Playing Fields, near where I lived.
Really?
No, actually, it was Hoole Park.
Yeah.
Hoole Park. There's a playing field across the road.
Right.
And I wasn't proficient in it to the degree
so you decided not to
that I wished to pursue it.
No,
I'll tell you where I did play tennis.
Yeah.
When I was working as a reporter on the Birmingham Evening Mail in Redditch.
Yeah.
We worked in district office there. Me and my mate, whose name was Ian Sangster.
You don't have to give his name out.
Well, he's dead, I'm afraid.
Is he?
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, it does matter.
I don't know why you're laughing.
I always tell you, because there might be a story that you're telling that some of his loved ones listen to.
No,
they might not appreciate it.
He's the guy who fell backwards in the kitchen and died.
Oh, is he? Right, right.
Okay. Big glass of whiskey in his hand. Yeah, tragic story.
I don't think we've got time for it, though.
Oh, you have got time for it. No, you have.
We haven't got time.
And every evening, after about sort of 4:30, we'd put the paper away and we'd done tomorrow's overnight pages and all that. We got off down to the tennis club, and I'll tell you what happens next.
Okay, right. We will find out what happens at the tennis club with Mr. Parry and his friend who suffered tragically later on. Coming up next on Talk Sport. So it's good to hear those old Hey songs, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't pick them. They don't really look at me like that for. It's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
They just get automatically kind of shot out of the occasional
repertoire. I think you think that you can chip away at my reputation as a serious broadcaster by, just
I think
having
you've done that yourself,
one or two of those occasionally. No, I haven't done that myself. Anyway, I was about to tell you about my tennis experiences, right?
Yeah, go on. So did you put the whites on then?
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
put the whites on.
So what we do is we both had a Vauxhall Viva in those days. You know, the Vauxhall Viva's just been reborn, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not like the old one like I had. And,
no, it's a lot better.
And yeah, it is. Of course it is. Yeah. And we shot around to the sports centre, Redditch Newtown Sports Centre.
Municipal Sports Centre.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a great one because they were building a new town trying to attract people into that part of the West Midlands, you know. And we got it was the first home I ever lived in on my own. It was £10 a week for a flat with a garage underneath and everything, you know, fully fitted kitchen and everything. It's brilliant. But anyway, point of the story is, we'd go to the sports centre and we get changed and start playing tennis at about 20 to 5.
Was it outdoors, presumably, was it?
Outdoors.
On sort of asphalt
on tarmac.
Yeah, right.
On tarmac, you know. And we'd get out there about 20 to 5, quarter to 5. And then the bar in the sports club, which was, you know, just a few, 100 yards away, the bar opened at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we used to hear the rattle of the grill. You know, the grill that you have in a bar when it's shut and all that. And you hear this rattle, and as soon as that happened...
Yeah, you're like Pavlov's dog to you.
That's right. Yeah, it was, the game was over.
Yeah.
And,
so you couldn't have got many games in then? It's about half an hour.
No, it was about a quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
It's about a quarter of an hour.
Right.
Usually get about a game and a half in, usually, before we heard the rattle.
Yeah.
And then we used to head off to the bar.
Right.
Because, and we used to keep our white gear on, right, because... what would happen then is, as soon as the bar was open, all these young ladies, you know, sort of young professional ladies, would turn up from places like lawyers' offices and accountants' offices and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, to come and play tennis.
Yeah.
So that's why we kept our white gear on, because we had fine physical bodies in those days, you know what I mean? Fine physical specimens, that kind of stuff.
The mind boggles.
No, we just used to hang around in the bar, lean on the bar, you know, and talk like big.
Look, as if you'd played 5 sets.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you make up stories about, you know, who had won the third set or something like that?
No.
Would you just make up stuff?
No.
I bet you did.
No, I didn't. No,
I bet you did.
No, I didn't make stuff up.
Smash.
No,
what was the guy's name?
Sangi, Ian Sangster, yeah.
What a tremendous smash that was to win the 5th point of the 4th game in the third set.
No, we didn't talk like that at all. No, we used to talk about world affairs.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were known in those days as... what those two great reporters who uncovered Watergate?
Woodward and Bernstein.
We were known as Woodward and Bernstein.
Were you?
Woodward and Bernstein of Redditch. yeah, that's right, yeah.
It doesn't bear thinking about.
No. But what happened is, they had a great jukebox there, and we always found, I don't know why this was, when we put on that record, which went, a choo-choo train burning down the track,
No idea.
It's never coming back, hey, on a one-way ticket to the moon. It's a great record.
Was it?
I don't know who made it. As soon as you put that on, everybody started, smiling and, it was with the in record at the time, you see what I mean?
Right.
And that's how we got to start talking to, to young ladies and all that kind of stuff. It was a great pickup joint.
Did you whisk them off in your Vauxhall
Yeah,
Vivas?
Absolutely, to the boot at Mapleborough Green.
Back to the £10 a week slot above the garage.
Well, no, that would come later.
Yeah.
You know, we did a few bars first and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Horrible.
And
it sounds horrible.
No.
I've heard enough.
No, but that was my experience of tennis.
Yeah.
That's the full extent of it.
I've
15 minutes.
I've
It's
heard
all I
enough.
needed.
15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
It's up. Let's talk to Pav, who is, of course, from Harrow. Pav, a very good morning to you.
All right, Mike. Mr. Parry, congratulations, first of all, on the winners and losers.
Oh, thank you very much indeed.
Don't say that.
Thank you very much indeed, Pav.
I've got to credit you, Mike. It should have happened because, in fairness, Mr. Graham, who I'm normally an ardent follower and a defender of was unnecessarily mocking of your personal character yesterday. I thought that was probably right.
Well, that's what he wanted. That was exactly what he wanted.
What do you mean?
You know, he was putting himself up as this kind of pathetic loner.
No, I didn't.
Over the whole course of the weekend.
I did not.
And he's elicited enough sympathy. And I'm surprised, Pav, that you didn't see through it, to be honest.
I didn't vote, Mike. I'm just saying I suggested that was why there was such an overriding win. But in fairness, Mike, and this I'm talking to MG here, I thought it was unnecessary. I really did. I mean, I thought it was unfair. You know, he was in a state of shock and in a state of sympathy eliciting and all the other things, you know, because he was uninvited, and clearly you took advantage of that and mocked him all the way through on Twitter, all through the weekend.
Rubbish.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I endorse it, by the way, Mike. I'm not saying I thought it was funny, but there you go.
Yeah,
anyway,
okay. And I'm not a pathetic loser, Pav. So don't take any notice of that. Now then, do you want to say something intelligent, Pav? To me.
To you, Mike. Well, the thing is, I've sadly been agreeing while I've been listening to your podcast stuff abroad with, unfortunately, some of the things you've been saying, which I'm finding rather disturbing because I wasn't sure whether I was suffering. I thought I might have picked up some sort of ailment abroad, but it's happened since I've come back. But thankfully, your barrage on Sunday shop opening hours claiming it was the economic teleological end yesterday added to your can only be described as blind optimism with regards to the Ashes. I need to remind you, Mike, that in the last 5 completed series, and when there's been a positive result in the matches throughout the series, we've lost 9 of the 14 tests. Yes. I hardly think one, albeit interesting and very watchable, series ODI win over New Zealand is hardly going to engender hopes of this wonderful riposte to the Australians. I just hope we win a test, to be honest. I think we're going to get absolutely embarrassed. I really do. And I don't really understand the basis which you and in fairness, a lot of cricket commentators have been suggesting this renaissance on, because I've got to confess, having watched England and flying all over the world to watch them, I wish I could share the optimism, but I'm not really sure where it's coming from, unless you're going to tell me you've been invoking guidance from above, Mike.
Well, it's a bit of that. I'm telling you, I don't think we'll get embarrassed at all. I'm not saying we're going to win the test, but I think we'll put up a very good show because we have found a rejuvenated spirit somewhere along the line since the dark days of last winter, and that will carry us through. I don't know anything about the new coach, Mr. Bayliss, right? Trevor, to his friends, but I think what he should do basically is leave well alone. I don't think he needs to do a lot. Everybody I speak to says he doesn't have a lot to say, but when he speaks, people listen. Well, I think the players have got it in their heads that they know what they're doing now, and I would leave well alone.
Mike, we have an uninspiring captain. We have a middle order which is inexperienced, which has played a handful of Ashes games. No real frontline spinner. A rather worryingly homogenous group of fast bowlers with similar pace and similar speeds and similar lines of accuracy. I really wish I could share it. I just don't see it's going to happen. I mean, like I said, I was there in the World Cup in February, March time. I was there, albeit I can understand people trying to make something of this and say momentum's a wonderful thing in sport, and to some degree it is, but I'm afraid in these sort of contexts, particularly in Test cricket, which is such a long sport, momentum can say what it wants, but it comes down to ability and skill. I'm just trying to think of one area where we can confidently assert, and people would agree with us objectively, that we're stronger than the Australians. Top order, no.
I agree with you, Pav, and I mean, looking at the front page of the
you
Telegraph...
would agree with Pav. You're always agreeing with Pav.
No, I don't always agree
you
with
are.
Pav.
You want to be invited round to one of Pav's establishments for a free drink.
I haven't spoken to Pav. I'm not the one that goes around trying to get free drinks.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. I know your game.
You're the one who pays, the ridiculously, reduced rates at Wetherspoons. You go there because it's cheap. You've admitted that, right?
No, I go there because it's great value for money.
Great value for money.
And I believe in it.
Would you mind if I just continue with the cricket conversation?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Front page of the Daily Telegraph Sport. I don't know if you got round to that yet, whether you've got past the tabloids. Captain vows his new bolder approach will enable England to recapture the urn, right? And here's his new bolder approach. And his catchphrase is, I won't let you down. It's not very inspiring, is it?
I agree. But by the way, I'd say you'll both be cordially invited, as I've suggested before. It's not as though it's going to be just arbitrary on Mr. Graham. But failing that, I will see both you guys in the after show on Friday, because thankfully I'm here for one of your shows. I've actually managed to locate some tickets, which is pretty good.
Oh, you have? Good, because there's no tickets left for the Head of Chickens.
No, I managed to get them. I think I must have been utilising some less than, shall we say, legal methods. But as a lawyer, you know how to flout these rules. But yeah, I've got some. So I'll see you gentlemen on Friday.
All right, terrific.
We look forward to it then. Pat, thank you very much indeed. Yeah.
Paul has tweeted in.
Yes.
The Boot is a snob's pub in the Ditch, as he calls it, Redditch.
It's in Mapleborough Green, actually, and it's not a snob's pub.
Well, it is.
It's a great country pub. And there's another one round the corner, and it's called the Washford Mill, and it's got a glass floor. above a mill wheel that goes round churning water. It's a fabulous location. It's a great part of the world.
Sounds a bit gimmicky, though.
No, it's not gimmicky. It's a wonderful old building. And then you go to Studley, and there's 2 or 3 great pubs in Studley. And then you go down to Ulster, which is the town between Studley and Stratford-on-Avon. It really is Shakespeare country, honestly. It's a beautiful part of the world. It really is.
Well, maybe you'll take me up there one day.
Now then, Sharon... Oh, you must be joking. Now, Sharon says, congratulations, Mr. Parry, on your blue tick and for beating MG in the winners and losers. Love from Sharon with a few kisses. So, that's the sort of affection in which I'm held by many, many of our listeners.
But I'm glad that the blue tick wasn't of any consequence to you, though. That's the main thing.
What do you mean?
Well, you said you didn't care if you got one or not.
Do you know what? There's a tweet that's gone out here, and it purports to come from me, but I'm certain I didn't write it. And it goes on about, enjoy the Newquay Brown when you get to Newcastle. Right. But I've never called it Newquay Brown.
Well, how do you know it comes from you? What do you mean?
It's got my face on it. It says it's...
Well, what Twitter account does it say?
Mike Parry, 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been hacked?
I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery, I'm afraid.
I'll have to check that out for you.
Yeah. Oh, it says here, The Boot. It's a snob's pub in the ditch. Redditch.
I just read you that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Right, what's this? What's with the long hair? Somebody are claiming to have run into me and taken a picture of me now. It's another one of those. They found an old tramp with long silver hair, and they've said, and they say to you, MG, ran into your mate down in a pub in Surrey, and then a picture of a dirty, filthy, smelly old tramp. But, I mean, that's typical. I don't know what you're laughing
Twitter?
at. I don't know why you're
laughing
at.
Twitter like it's written out in longhand.
What do you mean?
On some kind of, novel basis.
Well, because it's
140 characters. You read what the message says, and there's nothing on your Twitter account, by the way, that says anything about Newquay Brown.
It's the art of communication.
Yeah, well, there's nothing. You've not sent anything out that says anything about Newquay Brown, so you must be looking at one of those fake accounts.
No, I don't. Am I?
Yeah, you must be. I'll have a look. I'll show it to you.
Well, I never wrote Newquay Brown. I've never seen that word. It's spelled Newcee Brown, and I definitely didn't write that.
No. Well, it's not on your account, so I don't know what account you're looking at. Anyway, we shall investigate. We've got more to come. We are the Two Mikes.
How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed?
It's a great song, that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. Now, shall I tell you why we're playing that?
I know you're a Bob Dylan fan.
Well, I'm not really a Bob Dylan fan, to be honest.
No.
I mean, it's only as I've got older I've actually appreciated the influence of Bob Dylan on the modern musical scene. Yeah. But the reason we're playing that is because I came across a survey while I was researching things this week, and 1/3 of all Bob Dylan's songs relate to the weather. Now, you could say, so what?
Well, blowing in the wind is not really related to the weather, is it?
Well, the wind is the weather.
Well, it's not about the weather, though, is it?
Well, it is.
What, are they saying this is a weather song?
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous.
No, they're saying that he was actually weather obsessed, and they're saying, for instance, another very famous song of his, which was Subterranean Homesick Blues, includes the lyric, "You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows," right?
What do you think that's about?
Well, that's about a weatherman.
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
It's about the Weather Underground.
What do you mean?
The Weather Underground.
Weather Underground?
Yeah, the Weather Underground.
There isn't Weather Underground, you idiot.
What do you mean there isn't Weather Underground?
What do you mean? Subterranean weather?
Yeah, no, it's an organisation called the Weather Underground. That was what it was about. It wasn't about the bloody weather.
I don't know what you're
The
talking
Weather
about.
Underground was a group of people who were kind of, hippie stroke, anarchist stroke, sort of,
well, it still
people who
mentions...
wanted to change the world.
It still has weather words in it.
No, but people who were members of the Weather Underground were called the Weathermen. And so the reason he's saying you don't have to be a weatherman to tell which way the wind blows, he's not talking about some guy on the TV saying it's going to be stormy at the weekend.
I think he is.
He's talking about a guy who wants to change the world.
You're complicating things.
No, I'm not.
You're complicating things.
No, I'm telling you, it's not about the weather.
Now, what I'm saying to you is this.
What about hard rain's going to fall?
And it's a hard, and it's a hard, and it's a hard. That was done by
Roxy Music.
That's right, yeah. Now, what I was going to say to you was, you've got to understand that the second group to write the most songs about the weather was the Beatles.
Really?
Now, that is no coincidence. Do you know why?
Well, hopefully they're a bit more about the weather than Bob Dylan's.
No, I'll tell you why. Here Comes the Sun and all that kind of stuff. It was influence. Now, the reason was, and I know this from my own research over the years, when the Beatles first met Bob Dylan, which was over in America, when they were touring there the first time round, right? They all smoked dope together, and he introduced them to the delights of cannabis and all that kind of stuff. But B, he said to them, why do you guys only write songs about love?
Yeah.
Because, of course, that's what you did in those days.
Yeah.
When you were a group in this country, you know, she loves you, yeah, 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 you know, love me do.
Yeah.
You know, if
8 days a week.
8 days a week, if I fell in love with you and all that kind of stuff. And that's what everybody wrote songs about. You know, Billy J. Kramer sang about love. The Hollies wrote about love.
Well, probably driven by the producers who said this is what you need
exactly,
to do to make money.
Because young girls will go out and buy records about love.
Yeah.
Because it stirs their romantic passions and all that kind of stuff, right? So he said, why you guys only write... So then they sort of went back to England and thought, why do we write only songs about love? Let's write about other things.
Yeah.
And that's when you started getting things like Baby, You Can Drive My Car and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
was that about love?
I think it probably was, but in a more obtuse way. But
Norwegian Wood?
Norwegian Wood was about love, but it wasn't about a Norwegian wood.
No.
You know what it was about?
What was it about?
It was about the fact that in the 60s, all the trendy people like Mary Quaint and all these guys...
Mary Quant.
Yeah, Mary Quant. Yeah, Mary Quaint, Quant, whatever. And all these, and all these,
Great Quant, whatever.
Yeah. And all these guys who wandered up and down the King's Road in big flares. Went into all these shops and they bought furniture made of Norwegian wood.
Okay.
And John Lennon copped off with a bird who lived in one of these flats in Chelsea.
You put it so nicely.
Yeah, well, exactly. And part of his reminiscence of having intimate relations with this woman was that it was
pumpy, you mean?
Yeah, that's right. It was in a room full of Norwegian wood furniture.
Really? Was it?
And that's why I called it Norwegian wood.
Okay.
You know, I once met a girl, or shall I say she once met me.
Yeah.
It was a girl.
I once had a girl, isn't it?
No, I once met a girl.
Had a girl.
No, I once met a girl.
Or should I say she once had me?
No, I once met a girl, or should I say she once met me? That was made of Norwegian wood. Now, that's the point I'm making, OK?
Right.
So, he famously, Dylan, you know, said to them, start writing all things, all that kind of stuff. The only groups who ever wrote about the weather, to the extent that one-third of their songs were about the weather, were the Beatles and Bob Dylan.
Right.
No other group.
It's a bit of a useless survey, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. I think it's brilliant.
First of all, the premise of it is entirely incorrect because it thinks that just because something is mentioned. So, I mean, for example, the weather underground line is not about the weather.
Yeah.
Blown in the wind is not about the weather. A hard rain's going to fall is not about the weather.
Well, why isn't
None of it.
Why isn't it?
Well, no, because it's all metaphors, isn't it? It's all about things that are happening.
What about
what
Elvis?
do you think Blown in the Wind is about?
Blown in the Wind, probably about smoking cannabis, I suppose.
No, it's about the 60s. It's about the Vietnam War. It's about, you know, how many times must something happen before we can stop it happening.
Yeah, but
it's nothing to do with the weather.
No, but the wind is weather. It's a weather word. Now, listen, this was all done at the University of Southampton.
Right.
Okay?
Sounds like it should have better things to do.
No. And the lead author of this report, who is a Dr. Sally Brown, she says, we're all surprised how often weather is communicated in pop music, whether as a simple analogy or a major theme of a song, such as Bob Dylan's Blown in the Wind, or the Hollies' Bus Stop.
But it's not about the weather.
Well, hang on. No, it is. Or the Hollies' Bus Stop, where a couple fall in love under an umbrella. Sun and rain featured in 37% of the references to weather, with the wind in third place. The researchers found more extreme weather, such as tornadoes and blizzards, barely feature.
Well, that's funny, because blizzard doesn't really rhyme with anything.
No, but the Tornadoes was the name of a group, wasn't it?
Well, I dare say it was.
The Tornadoes...
Do they count as a band that wrote everything about the weather?
Well, they wrote a song about Telstar, which was
a satellite.
It's a weather satellite.
Well, it's nothing to do with the weather.
It is, a weather satellite.
How is Telstar about the weather?
I've just told you. It's about the launch of a satellite.
I think you do well. You should go down and join this particular group in Southampton University. Because you're obviously sitting around all day with nothing to do apart from make up a load of old cobblers.
OK, so one-third of Dylan's songs about the weather out of 500...
it's not about the weather.
By the way, Dylan wrote 542 songs. That's not bad, is it?
Right.
He's probably still writing them. The Beatles came in at number 2. They mentioned the weather in 48... of the 308 songs they wrote or sang.
It's nothing.
Which is 16%.
This shows you, right? This shows you how you've become obsessed with surveys. This particular survey is not only misconceived...
Well, what do you think Good Day Sunshine was about, then?
Well, it was probably about feeling good and about...
No, it was about sunshine.
No, it wasn't.
So you know what sunshine
is?
No,
it wasn't.
Sunshine is not, just a word you call a woman in passing in a pub. Hello, sunshine. Sunshine.
I don't call people sunshine.
Sunshine is actually something that happens when the sun comes up each morning.
Really
when I go out and feed my ducks in the morning, right?
You think that...
I always say, good day, sunshine.
Do you? Well, I'm sure they're very grateful for that.
And
what do you think Hurricane's about by Bob Dylan?
Hey?
What do you think Hurricane's about?
It's about a hurricane.
No, it's not.
Rubbish. What do you think it's about?
It's about a boxer.
Hey?
It's about a boxer.
Hurricane Smith wrote songs in the 70s. He was a. What are you laughing at? He was a producer turned singer-songwriter And he wrote, if I could give you half a chance, and all that.
Did he write any songs about the weather?
OK, now tell me what you think.
I asked you about the hurricane.
Yeah.
Reuben Hurricane Carter. They made a film of it as well.
Right.
He was wrongly locked up for a murder that he didn't commit.
Well, that's
right?
very sad.
Denzel Washington played it. And it was called Hurricane. Now, these idiots would say that was about the weather.
Well,
because they would go, tick. That's a weather subject.
All right, what do you think?
Weather word.
So what do you think the Beatles song Rain was about?
Rain.
When the rain came.
I don't know that one. I don't know.
It was about the rain.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily.
But you would in your
what the
warped...
words are. Well, tell me what the words are.
In your warped, perverted mind, you're trying to work out that, rain, I know what that could be. That could be like, people getting wet in other ways or something like that. That's the sort of nonsense that you talk.
That's what you've come up with.
What do you think? You haven't told me yet what you think Good Day Sunshine was about.
Well, I've told you, I don't think it's just about sunshine. The Beatles were a little bit cleverer than that. They didn't just write songs about sunshine, did they?
Now, you see, you're completely wrong, because you're saying, all Bob Dylan songs about the weather were all like coded language or something else. But they weren't. The reason he wrote about the weather, he once said, was because he grew up in the harsh climate of the northern state of Minnesota. And in Minnesota, the weather is harsh. And that's why it influenced him so much. So I'll just let you know that.
Do you remember what his real name is?
Who?
Bob Dylan.
Zimmerman.
Very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Robert Zimmerman. It says here that they wrote Rain after they arrived in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
Because they'd never seen rain like it.
Oh, really? I didn't think there was any rain in Melbourne, but of course there is. Yeah, there's no rain in Sydney.
4 seasons in one day is a song written about the weather in Melbourne.
Is it?
Because Melbourne's famous for having very, very changeable weather.
Well,
if you'd been to Melbourne, you would know that.
I haven't been to Melbourne, but it sounds like a good place to go. Also, what about the 30...
You've got useless information about people that sing about the weather.
I've got more information about weather and pop songs and pop groups.
Right.
30
what
groups...
about It's Raining Men? What's that about?
It's raining men, hallelujah.
Yeah, is that about the weather?
I don't know who sung that first, but I heard a version by Jerry Halliwell, and it was dreadful.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Right.
But it's not about the weather, is it?
Well, no, it's about the fact that, I'm a woman and I like loads of men, I presume.
But just because it's got rain in the title doesn't mean it's about the weather. That's my point.
I don't agree.
Surely you would concede that.
No.
It was also recorded by the Weather Girls.
If you don't think... Oh, was it?
Who weren't Weather Girls.
Right, OK. Now, if you don't think that weather's important to the whole process of the development of pop music, how come 30 bands have weather-related names? Go on, name a few.
Well, I've just told you the Weather Girls.
No, rubbish.
How is that not weather-related?
Well, it is, I suppose, but I mean...
Earth, Wind and Fire.
Earth, Wind and Fire, that's good. What about...
Even though fire technically isn't weather.
What about Coldplay?
What about Coldplay?
Coldplay?
What's that got to do with weather?
Cold weather.
Oh, give over.
Of course it is.
That's ridiculous.
Of course it is.
That's ridiculous.
What about...
We might as well say hot chocolate then.
No.
Because it's hot.
No.
That's a weather word.
Yeah, well...
It's like being at primary school.
Yeah, well, it could be.
Let's have a weather word.
Don't be so idiotic. What about wet?
What about Queen?
Queen?
Yeah.
That's not a weather.
The Queen reigns.
Oh, rubbish. Don't be stupid.
I mean, you're taking this to the nth degree.
I'm not. I'm telling you what the research document shows. It says that the weather has a huge influence
I hope these people have not given a government grant
on the pop genre over the last 50 years. I mean, for instance, Marty Pellow named his group after the weather.
Wet.
Absolutely.
You think that was after the weather?
Yeah, of course it was, because it rains a lot in Scotland.
It's a very stupid
where
name.
he comes from.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to talk to you about this anymore, because you're dismissive of every piece of research I ever come across if you can't see it in its basic form, and you have to go around dreaming up all sorts of stupid reasons as to why things happen.
This is a perfect survey for you, because you can draw as many useless conclusions as possible from a piece of completely useless research, which means nothing, is inaccurate, and should never be quoted again. Never mind on a national radio station.
I think that I have a much greater appreciation of the arts in this country than you do. I don't look at a pop song and say, well, that sounds nice, therefore it's a good song. I look at the depth behind it and find out what the real story was. And that's all I can tell you, and I don't care about your dismissive, ignorant nonsense. OK?
Really?
Yeah.
Can you name any other weather songs, then? Or weather words?
There's millions of them.
There's
hundreds of them.
Well, give us
I've told you most of them.
Have you?
What about the all the Beach Boys songs? You know, fun, till a daddy takes the T-bird away.
Is the beach a weather word?
Well, California's full of weather. In fact, there's no weather. In fact, there's not even... In fact, there's not even any rain in California at the moment. No. And there hasn't been for a while.
But there is still weather, though.
All these people in California are painting their lawns green now because they're all brown. They don't like brown lawns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's regurgitated water.
Golden brown. Is that about the weather?
Golden Brown's about heroin.
Yeah,
so
that's not about the weather.
Of course it's not about the weather, you idiot. But some of the Beach Boys songs about, surfing Savari, that's about the weather.
Is it?
Surf gets whipped up by wind, by strong winds on these beaches like Venice Beach.
You should go and join these knuckleheads down in Southampton. You do really well down there.
No.
Join their research project.
See, you have contempt for academica. You do.
I do, yeah.
I'm an academic.
It's worthless. I know you're an academic. There are many other words I could call you, but we've run out of time, sadly. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. So if you follow us on at the Two Mics or at Mike Parry, at IROMG, you'll get plenty of news on that. You'll find out when it's coming out in about 5 or 6 hours from now. Mad Max says, Wet, Wet, Wet got their name from a song by Scritti Politti, lines from a song referring to wet with tears from crying. Hashtag Porky Plank. Adam says, I'm with you, MG. What a load of cobblers that was. Hashtag planks. Brocky says, what about the Bewitched? Blame it on the weatherman. Blame what on him?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what was that about?
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard of that record. Listen, my favourite song in terms of expressing emotion relating to weather is that great one. I'm not sure who did it first. It could have been the Everly Brothers or something like that. And you know the one I'm talking about? It goes, I do my crying in the rain. Yeah. Now, isn't that a great song?
No, it's not about the weather, is it?
Of course it is.
Oh,
no, it is. Don't you understand? Don't you understand what that song's all about?
It's not about the weather.
It is about the weather.
It's about him being upset.
Yes, exactly.
It's nothing to do with the weather.
It is, because what it explains is that, he's very upset. Perhaps his girlfriend's left him or something, or maybe his dog's died or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's walking around, but he doesn't want anybody to see him crying, so he only walks around in the rain, so that if anybody bumps into him in the street, they can't say, why are you crying? He says, I do my crying in the rain because then water runs down my face and mixes with my tears, which disguises my crying. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Don't you understand that?
Well, it's not about the weather, then, is it?
Of course it's about the weather. It's about using rain as a disguise for his broken emotional state.
Yes, exactly.
Don't you understand that?
Well, you would know a lot about a broken emotional state.
No, I don't.
Now, this is a story in the front on page, 25 of The Sun this morning. Russia is developing a fleet of virtually undetectable midget submarines dubbed piranhas in a fresh threat to Britain. So when you were talking earlier about Roman Abramovich, boating around the Isle of Bute and possibly the Isle of Arran, depending on which report you read.
Yes.
And you said, well, there aren't any mini submarines anywhere. There aren't any dangers to him up there in that part of the world.
Yeah.
Well, there's your proof that actually you're wrong about that.
Well, I'm sorry, but if that story can't be an exact statement of what the status quo is.
Because it's not true.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if the Russians had mini submarines that were all, positioned around the world and taking up secrets and all that kind of stuff, we certainly wouldn't know about them.
Well, a military insider says this. Putin is breathing life into many old programmes and thinks subs are an effective way of getting what he wants militarily. The piranhas can come extremely close to land and are almost impossible to detect as they are so small.
Yeah, but they're useless, aren't they?
Why?
Well, what do they do?
Well, they might be good for spying. They might be good for surveillance.
Spying, surveillance, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, a bit like a drone. I mean, you might say, well, what good is a drone? But if you can put some armament on it and fire something from it, then it's dangerous.
Exactly. But, I mean, I don't think you'll find many ships going down to piranha submarines in the near future, to be honest.
Right.
But
Last month, 2 designs for previously unseen midget subs were unveiled at an Uzbekistan arms fair attended by Putin. One appears big enough to reach Britain under its own power. The other would be launched by a larger vessel.
Yeah, but the Russians...
And you're always talking about the Russian ships around the coast of Britain.
Yeah. But the Russians would never show you one of their secret weapons. I mean, whatever they put into these military parades and all that, they're just toys. The real military hardware they have will never be seen, believe me.
Really?
Now, I want to talk to you about fracking, because I don't believe... You see, this week, or just a few days ago, or a week ago, the people of Lancashire, and through the Lancashire County Council, voted to ban fracking in an area that's got enough gas and oil to last us for the next 250 years. 250 years. Shale gas. Yeah. 250 years, OK? But a local authority like the Lancashire County Council voted against it.
Right.
Now, that is completely...
Well, when you say the council voted against it, or the people voted against it?
Well, it's the same thing, because the people are the council, aren't they?
Well, they're not, no.
Yes,
the council is a body which
the council is a body drawn from the people of Lancashire.
Well, that's true, but what I'm saying is it's different. It wasn't like a referendum or anything.
No. It was but I mean, nevertheless, you vote for your councillors, don't you? And the councillors go up to the council house and they make the decisions.
Well, but that's the same as saying that you vote for the people who are in the government. Yes. But they don't always do exactly what you would want them to do.
No, they don't. But what I'm saying is the majority here have voted against fracking. Now, the point is, this is too important an issue to be left to a bunch of councillors in Lancashire.
Right.
If there's enough shale gas underneath Lancashire to fuel this country for hundreds of years, then we should be digging it out right now.
Well, there's a reason why people are a bit uneasy about it, isn't there?
But there's you see, I'm on the side of those who say if you have to make minimal sacrifices, like a bit of rumbling now and then, but not earthquakes, but a bit of rumbling.
Well, they have had earthquakes in that part of the world, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, There's no evidence whatsoever that it interferes with water supplies. That's a myth, complete and total myth. There's not a single case in America of that being proven. But what interests me most is that to bring this story right up to date, the people of Yorkshire have said, well, come and put your drill in Yorkshire, and if you can find a load of shale gas here, because it might be the same bed, but on the other side of the Pennines, you can take it all out here, and we'll get rich in Yorkshire and supply gas to the rest of the country. Right. Now, I don't believe that major decisions like this...
I mean, is that really the people of Yorkshire saying that, or is that another council saying that?
No, it's another council. It's another council saying,
That's what I mean.
Bring it here, man.
Because the problem with this story is that it's become a sort of diverted and made into a political football, really.
It has, I agree.
So anybody who's on the left side of politics says, we don't like fracking. Anyone who's on the right side says, we do.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, what I'm saying is this. Just imagine if in 1890 the people of Northumberland and County Durham and Yorkshire had voted their councils to say, no, we don't want any coal mines here, thank you.
Yeah.
Supposing the people of South Wales had voted for no coal mines. Yeah. Supposing the people of Kent and Nottingham had voted no coal mines, then England would not have had an empire, or the United Kingdom, or Great Britain.
Coal either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Great Britain would have had an empire. How would we have fuelled the world's biggest ever navy if we didn't have coal mines digging coal out of the ground?
To be fair, there wasn't as much danger, potentially, digging coal out of the ground as people say there is about fracking. I don't think you can sit there and say that you know for sure that it doesn't cause any massive problems.
I don't, but what I say is there's been enough research done into it. I mean, there has never been a major incident involving fracking. America now is self-sufficient in fuel and is a bigger producer of oil and shale gas than Saudi Arabia, right? Because they have a massive fracking industry, and there has been not one case throughout the history of the development of the US fracking industry in which there's been any kind of disaster, any kind of damage, any kind of pollution, any kind of earthquake. It just hasn't happened. Right. And if it doesn't happen there, it shouldn't happen here. No. And I believe it's too important a decision for a local authority.
I tend to agree with you, but I mean, as in many of these situations, what I'm uneasy about is the haste with which people are saying absolutely no problem at all. We can guarantee.
No, they've had all sorts of inquiries. They've had all sorts of inquiries. This has been going on for years and years and years.
I know that.
And what's going to happen is another country will suddenly find they've got a load of shale gas. They'll start producing it very cheaply. They'll get wealthy. Yeah. We will become a third world country. We'll be down the tubes. It's not good enough. We've got to change it right now. We've got to disband, in my view, the Lancashire County Council who turned this down.
Well, they've been elected, though, as you said, by the people of Lancashire.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but there are certain decisions which are so important they should be not left to a group of 40 people in one part of the country, which can affect the wealth, literally the wealth of this country for generations ahead. And it shouldn't be allowed.
You said that they represent the people, but they may not represent the people. They may represent a very small number of people. They may just be politically motivated.
Yeah, no, well, they may be, in which case it's even more important that you don't allow a load of people like that with a vested interest in trying to secure their own personal point of view to hold up a massive industry which could transform this country. Yeah. I mean, the point is, the lights are going to go out in this country. You know that, don't you? The lights are going to go out.
They're not going to go out.
Yes, they are. Rubbish. The lights are going to go out because we're closing down.
People.
We're closing down coal-fired power stations at a faster rate than we're opening nuclear power stations, or this ridiculous scene of all these cargo boats coming over from Canada, bringing half of the trees in Canada to Britain to chop them up into bits of wood called chipping or something. Yeah, and wood chips and all that, and chucking them in the boilers of power stations which used to take coal. Right. It's ludicrous and ridiculous.
There's a lot more Red Bull in the break there.
No, why?
You seem to be very excited about this whole story.
I am very excited because we are losing the opportunity to be a world leader in the production of our own power.
All right, well, calm down.
Yeah, I'm not having it.
Don't worry about it.
I want democracy in action.
Picture in the Daily Mirror of Roman Abramovich in Arran, walking with his 5 bodyguards. Turns out they're not his bodyguards. Everyone thought they were his bodyguards. They're actually his mates.
And they're all the same thing, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not. They're all fellow rich Roman kind of
oligarchs.
Oligarchs.
So why don't they smile then? Why is he the only one smiling?
Well, Because they're maybe, I don't know why they're not smiling.
Because are you telling Russians don't smile?
Alexei Polijav made his wealth in gas and oil. He's worth $1 billion. David Davidovich was an oil trader. He's worth $1 billion.
Okay.
Alexander Yaroslavsky, one of Ukraine's richest men.
Yes.
Eugene Shivdlia, best friend of Abramovich at the back.
Right, good. So your ridiculous
so you got all that
theory...
wrong, basically.
No, you got it wrong.
You said they were all his bodyguards.
No, I said, why does he need 5 bodyguards on the Isle of Arran where nobody's to threaten him?
I was giving you a reason why.
And you said because billionaires always walk around with bodyguards. It was you who told me they were bodyguards, not me.
No, you know what it said.
No, I didn't. I said the caption on a picture I saw called them bodyguards. I didn't call them bodyguards.
So you got it wrong.
I know a bodyguard when I see one. They're not bodyguards.
Oh, okay.
They're Russian oligarchs.
I'm glad we sorted that out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Thank you very much
indeed. Your stupid theory that every time you go to the Isle of Arran you should take 5 bodyguards with you because it's a really dangerous place. Yeah, it's like Chicago, isn't it, eh?
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah.
You haven't been there either.
No.
This is Talk Sport. This is a band called The Cult.
Who's that, The Cult?
The Cult, yeah.
Cult.
Here Comes the Rain. That sounds like a weather song, I suppose.
Yeah, The Cult. Why is... Well, no, that's not. Not weather. The Cult.
No, but the song is called "Here Comes the Rain."
Oh right, okay, yeah. The only one I know about, "Here Comes the Rain." Oh, I know. Annie Lennox.
Yeah.
Here comes the rain again, falling on my. What's it like lovers do? Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Yeah. That's
there's plenty of them. I mean, Martin says the 2 most iconic weather songs: "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" or "I'm Singing in the Rain."
Yeah, "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head," written by Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
Do you know at the age of 83, Burt Bacharach is still writing songs?
Is he?
Unbelievable.
Did he not die?
No, definitely not. The range of that man's songs are just legendary. Legendary. He's written some of the songs that you hear every day, which you don't realise are such legendary compositions. What are you laughing at?
You just drove yourself down a cul-de-sac.
No, I didn't. No, because you're trying to check now to find out Burt Bacharach's dead.
Well, I guess he's one of those guys.
He's not.
How
can he be so insulting?
Well,
I mean,
sometimes you think people have died.
No, well, he hasn't.
Yeah, I don't think he has actually.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, right.
I know that.
Anyway, a couple of things we have to sort out.
Yeah.
One is what we're going to do the quiz on this week.
The quiz?
Yeah.
Right. No, there are a few
subjects. Look at this from the Daily Post in North Wales.
Oh, yes.
One of your former alma maters. 18 hours ago, a review of Burt Bacharach at the Llangollen International Pavilion.
Well, there you go. Llangollen.
Llangollen, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I just said.
Llangollen, that's where they have the Eisteddfod.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Which is the national Welsh, celebration every year.
Yes.
Did
you ever have to cover that in your time?
Well, I was lucky because we had a Welsh edition of the Chester Chronicle, but it was in Wales.
Right.
And they had all these funny names of the streets. I kept telling you, I told you, they were spelt in Welsh. It was terribly difficult. Welsh is a terribly difficult language.
Yeah.
But a bloke I trained on the Chester Chronicle with, we went to this training centre in Newcastle, funny enough, where we're going a week on Saturday.
Yeah.
And who historically have written a story about me saying, the Wandering Star returns and all this kind of stuff.
I'm going to get my hands on this.
Yeah.
Once again, you seem to have sold the 2 mics down the river.
No, not at all.
For the sake of a bit of publicity for yourself.
But one of the guys who came from Chester with me, his name was...
Don't give his name away.
Well, his name was Howard, so I'll just tell you his first name.
Is he still alive?
I'm not sure. But the thing is, his dad was my dad's accountant, so that was a sort of a bridge, between us.
Right.
But this guy spoke fluent Welsh.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he spoke fluent Welsh was he used to go off and join the Druids and all this, late at night, walking around... working round the hills in a white robe and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, a bit mad.
Sounds a bit unusual.
But they used to take a lot of alcohol, by the way, when they did all that.
Yeah.
They used to hide out bottles of alcohol under their robes and all this kind of stuff. But anyway...
I'm surprised you didn't join up.
Well, maybe I should have done. But I'm not saying that all Druids are dip soaks. I'm just saying that...
Dip soaks?
Yeah,
No, that would be wrong, wouldn't it? Now, here's one from Mark. He says, let's
wrong.
frack under Mike Parry's house and see how he likes it and the reduced price of his penthouse.
Well, I tell you what... If there was shale gas underneath my property, I'd sell it tomorrow for a huge premium and say, look, there's my kitchen, bring your drill in, straight through my floor, no problem at all. You could have it without a shadow of a doubt, wouldn't you?
Well, no, I don't think I would, actually. Here's one from Roy. He says, what utter dross Porky's talking. People in Ohio had flames coming out of their taps and had to evacuate their homes.
That's rubbish. That is, honestly...
That is certainly one of the pieces of propaganda that the other side put out, isn't it?
It is utter rubbish, honest to God. It doesn't doesn't stand up at all.
And there's a text here from someone who doesn't give a name. Fracking needs thousands of gallons of fresh water which can't be used again nor put back in rivers. Do you want your grandkids drinking this water, Porky?
You're
not going to have any grandkids,
I don't believe in that. Listen, talking about the weather thing, by the way, I came across something, and it's called the Sweat Lodge.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know what that is?
The Sweat Lodge, it's something that Native Americans used to use.
You see, now did you know that?
Well, because I just know it.
Right, OK, because I was going to tell you, what they did
It's like a sort of old-fashioned sauna, isn't it?
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah. But do you know where it came up last week?
Where?
It was in a train that broke down, OK? Right. And when like a train breaks down on the underground and all that. And
on the tube, yeah.
Yeah, and the air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, because one of the only ways of air conditioning the tube is the movement of the train.
That's right. And some guy, who got off the train, barely alive, it's like a sweat lodge. And somebody said, what's a sweat lodge?
Really?
Yeah, and I researched it, and a sweat lodge was
I know many things that you didn't know about.
Well, a sweat lodge is like, it's a stone-built sort of oven, really.
Yeah, it is.
And what the Indians did is they went in there and... then somebody came along and set fire to all the sort of circle around the sweat lodge with different, things like cinnamon were burnt and all this kind of stuff, and all these different sort of.
It was a bit like a sort of a spa treatment. If you would sort of liken it to something of modern day. You know?
It was, and all the smells percolating remind you of things like. The god of food, because they'd burn a bit of venison and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was a ritual you had to go through if you were a Native American.
And also, many
also
times,
known as the Red Indians in those days.
If you were kind of going to rediscover yourself, as quite often was the case with some Native Americans, they would go and be alone in a sweat lodge for a period of time. And, contemplate life and contemplate their worth and their place in the universe and all that. And so it was very kind of therapeutic for them.
Indeed. Now, listen, talking about therapeuticness, okay?
We still haven't come up with a quiz subject yet.
Quiz subject.
I mean, I'm not rushing you, but you have to have it in the back of your mind. Because next week we'll probably do one on Newcastle.
Yeah, we will. We'll do it on Newcastle. That's fine. Well, you see, I'm an expert on so many subjects. I sometimes... And I mean that quite seriously.
No, I know you are.
That's through life experience. Yeah. I tell you what, why don't we... have we ever done the Romans?
I'm not sure if we have, actually.
We done the Romans?
Maybe not.
Well, should we do the Romans?
Do the Romans?
Let's do the Romans.
OK.
I'll do
the Romans.
Romans, yeah, the Romans.
OK.
What did the Romans ever do for us? Apart from irrigation and navigation and all that kind of stuff.
Bladderation.
Yeah, bladderation.
They came up with that as well, actually.
Well, they did, because they made wine. Nobody drunk water in those days, because the water was so impure, they had to lace it with something, so they decided to lace it with alcohol.
Yeah.
Now, do you know who Sir David Brailsford is?
Sir David Brailsford, yes. Yeah. He's the guy that was in charge, was he not, of the Tour de France Sky team?
Yes, that's right, absolutely.
And did he not then take over one of the Olympic... teams as well, because he moved into a different sport, didn't he? After his success with the Tour de France Sky team.
Yeah, he was the former British cycling coach who went to Sky.
He went to Sky, yeah. But did he not go and have a period like coaching some other sport? Because
no,
he was
I don't think
successful?
so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's funny you should say that about going to another sport and all that, because I was only thinking when I saw a sign today in some pub somewhere which said 74 days to the Rugby World Cup, okay? Yeah. And I thought, that'll be, fantastic, really, for the country as it's here, obviously. And, of course, the national coach is old Stuart, what's his name?
Stuart
Lancaster, right?
He was one of those introduced at Wimbledon the other day, which I was moaning
He was,
about.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And that...
Well, he came strutting down the steps like some conquering hero.
I know.
Hasn't won anything yet.
Hasn't won anything yet. Now, do you know what I thought?
What did you think?
Well, I don't think we are going to win the Rugby World Cup, although I hope we do, because I'm a patriot and I want us to win it. But if we do, I hope Stuart Lancaster doesn't waste his legacy in the way that I believe Sir, what's his name, wasted his legacy?
Clive Woodward. Yeah.
And I do honestly believe he wasted his legacy. Now, if people say that's sacrilegious because he brought the World Cup to this country and all that, yes, he did that.
Yeah.
But then, in my view, he kind of completely lost focus on what his role on Earth was.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
He was immediately knighted.
Well, once you've done something like that, I suppose it's quite difficult to then top it, isn't it?
I don't agree. Because if you look at the really great football managers, when they've won something, they want to win something else again.
Yeah, right.
And for instance...
Yeah, but it's easier in football, isn't it? Because you can go from club to national coach to another club.
No, I'm talking about international managers.
Another country.
I'm talking about international managers.
Yeah, but I mean, Stuart Lancaster could not have gone, for example, to coach Australia. Or
Sir Clive Woodward, you mean?
Oh, sorry, Sir Clive Woodward. He couldn't have gone to coach New Zealand or
Well, why not?
Australia.
Why not?
Well, because I'm not sure that
they do that very much so in rugby and cricket now.
They come a lot the other way.
Yes.
I mean, we've had loads of Australian coaches. I mean, Wales' coach is Australian. But they've had a Kiwi coach.
Yeah, but why couldn't he have just stayed with England and built a new team for the next World Cup?
Yeah, well, he could have done that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because I mean, for instance, Sir Alf Ramsey won the World Cup in England in 1966. Obviously, piece of folklore of this country. But he didn't then, when he got knighted, say, right, I'm too good for this now, I'm going to be something else. Yeah. He stayed with it and built a new team for 1970.
Yeah, but then he hasn't won, but then he didn't win it again.
No, but he very nearly
did. So maybe he made a mistake to do that.
Well, yeah, but in my view, what I'm saying about Sir Clive Wood was, if he disappeared into the background, fair enough. Yeah. But he didn't. He then started turning up in ridiculous jobs.
Well, he went to Southampton, didn't he?
That's what I'm about to say. He went to Southampton Football Club as a motivational coach. Well, that to me is nonsense.
And some of the stories I've heard from when he was there, he would do things like practising kind of rugby line-outs with the players. Yeah. Who were all baffled completely as to why they were playing a game that they didn't actually play.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying. Anyway, the point I was going to make about Sir David Brailsford is that he has called for a truce between cyclists and motorists, he being a leading and eminent cyclist, but also a man who drives a car.
Well, I would back him on that. So I think it is time for a truce.
I would, and he's the sort of guy we need. He's got to become our cycling/motoring czar and get this sorted out, because the rate at which they're building cycle lanes in this country, there soon won't be any room for any cars.
Well, it's not so
there
much
will not be room for cars.
So it's not so much whether there's room for cars. It's time that we all learn to kind of get along together, is what I'm saying. Well, I don't want to see people being injured. I don't want to see cyclists being killed.
Most cyclists, in my view, are too arrogant to be able to appreciate the role of the motorist.
Yeah, but you're already setting yourself out there.
Oh, they have the superiority of it. Look, because I wear lycra and goggles and I sit upright on my bike and my knees pump up and down like this, I'm a superior person to that.
Your legs?
Well, I was pumping up and down like I was cycling.
Yeah, right.
I'm a superior person to the man who drives a car which runs on diesel or petrol. Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah, well, I think he's right to be asking for a truce. I think it's time we stopped, throwing darts at each other. Just to finish up this little section, David has tweeted a picture of Burt Bacharach at Glastonbury, saying, "I'm definitely not dead," because apparently he was at Glastonbury as well.
Yeah, well, I told you, you're the fool who questioned whether he was alive or not.
I thought he might be dead.
You've got to keep up with modern trends, Mike. You've got to get out more and find out what's going on in the world out there. You know, instead of sticking your face into a plate full of paella, which I understand you did before the show tonight.
I did, yeah. I made a very nice paella. Yeah, it was very good, actually. Yeah, Thank you for asking.
It's disgraceful.
I'll ask you what you had for dinner in a minute. That could be the first question on Ask Porky, which is coming up next on Talk Sport.
I had a fish finger sandwich.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talks.
And we've got some great questions that have come in.
Okay.
As ever, if we don't manage to get to one of yours, we do apologise, but we'll try and get through as many of them as possible.
Yes.
Here's the first one.
Okay.
And it comes from Forrest. He says, I have a job interview in the morning after the night I'm supposed to be working. What do I do? Do I pull a sickie or do I work and then do the interview tired?
I don't understand that question.
He's got a job interview in the morning after working all night, I think.
Oh, I see. Right,
what he's not sure about is whether he should go to work and then do the interview in a tired state, or whether he should pull a sickie and do the interview fresh.
You do neither. You go to that interview full of energy, full of enthusiasm, full of optimism, and you go there looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you convince the person that you're going to see that you are the man for the job. Your attitude to this is that of a loser.
But how does he do it if he has to work all night?
Well, because you've got to inject yourself with something to buck yourself up. Take a Red Bull, take a cup of coffee, or eat a packet of Love Hearts, which are very, very good for boosting up your energy levels.
Shortly before the interview.
Yeah, shortly before the interview. Yeah,
then you burst into the room.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like you.
No. You go in with a very, very positive attitude. And remember, my maxim for life, and people should remember this in this situation as well as others, is this: if you're not winning, it's because you're not trying hard enough. So try harder.
OK. Question number 2 comes from Neil. He says, what tips does Mike Parry have for me to survive Ascot, the King George, straight after a night shift? Similar kind of question.
Well, again, similar sort of answer, really. You've got to put on the appearance of somebody who is right up for the game. Now, this is mind over matter, OK? This is your mind saying to yourself, I can do it, I will do it, I'm going to look great, everybody's going to look up to me, I have a mission, I am not going to fail in that mission, because if I fail in that mission, I'm failing myself. If you're not winning, you're not trying hard enough. I will repeat it.
Here's one from Chris, who says, how would Porky go about proving discrimination if he wasn't selected for a job he felt he was more qualified for? That's quite a difficult one, that.
Well, it would depend who was discriminating against me. But, I mean, there are ways and means of doing this. For instance, you lay out your credentials. You know, Hey, Mr. Dream Seller, where have you been? And all that. And there's a line in that song which says, lay out your dreams and show them all to me. You've got to go in with such a positive attitude. You've got to convince the person that you're talking to that actually a mistake has been made. You are the right person for the job. The discrimination is not only unjust, but it's not good for that company because you could do a better job. So don't go in complaining about discrimination because that looks as though you're in for it personally. Go in and say, on behalf of the company, I think a better solution would be this. That just happens to entail you taking that job.
Here's one from Trevor. I want to try the grapefruit diet, but I can't afford 40 grapefruits a day. Can I use tinned instead?
You can use tinned. A tinned grapefruit is very, very nice indeed. It's already got all the sort of pith taken off it. It's usually... what are you laughing at? It's usually got the pith taken off, yeah. And it's usually contained in grapefruit juice, which keeps it moist and very, very... edible in the sense that, you know, when you get a real grapefruit and you start cutting off all this stuff around it, it can be rather dry and mangy because you don't know how long that grapefruit's been around.
Mangy?
So the answer is, seriously, go and buy huge tins of grapefruits, go to the cash and carry, you'll see them on the top shelf with all the other fruit, and I would buy, not joking, 3 or 4 of those and then munch away on the grapefruit juice to your life's content. However, if you take the drug... I forgot what it's called now, the blood thinner. Warfarin. Because
you shouldn't forget that, because you used to take it.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Because you've got some sort of heart disease or it's to help you recover from a stroke or something like that, then do not eat grapefruit juice, because if you do, it will kill you. And that is no idle threat. When I go to my hospital, Harefield Hospital, there's a sign in the room where they take all the blood tests saying, do not eat grapefruit juice. Or cranberry, don't take cranberry juice either, if you're on warfarin, because the consequences will be extremely dire.
Right, OK. Here's one from Matty, after what you said the other day, perhaps. Would Porky come to a game of rugby league?
Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, actually...
Somebody actually said last night that your local team is not, in fact, St Helens.
Oh, yeah, what did they say
it
was?
would be Widnes.
No, it wouldn't. No, it's St Helens. Hang on. The Runcorn-Widnes Bridge is... Yeah, Widnes is pretty close, but I would opt for St Helens. The Saints, that's my team.
Yeah, all
right. But let me tell you, for the last few years, I've been invited to the grand final of the Summer Rugby League, right?
Yeah.
Which takes place at Old Trafford. I've been invited for the last 4 or 5 years. I've had to decline the invitation.
Is it always at Old Trafford, or does it move around? There was one in Edinburgh once, I seem to remember.
The ones I've always been invited to have always been at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And I'd love to go to one day. Just so happens it being a Saturday, clash with something else I was doing. But yes, the answer is I could really get into rugby league. I think it's a fine, noble sport. And I prefer it to rugby union, which I think is played by a number of charlatans.
Really? That's a bit harsh. Now, here's one from Ross.
Yep.
It says, I'm in Portsmouth for a wedding at the end of July.
Right.
Where's the best place to get fish and chips and full sex?
Well, I don't know about the full sex bit, but I mean, I suppose with it being a naval port and all that, there's many avenues open to you on that sort of thing, but it's a bit smutty for me, and I don't get involved in it. However, for the, what is one, fish and chips?
Fish and chips, yeah. Best fish and chips in Portsmouth.
I tell you exactly where they are. If you go to the Cascades, which is a shopping centre near to the Guildhall, where you and I recently undertook a show.
Lovely part of town, that,
Yeah, lovely part of town, absolutely right. You will find a Wetherspoons on the... What are you laughing at?
Are you sure you're not an ambassador for them?
No. You'll find a Wetherspoons.
Portsmouth is a seafaring town. You're telling me there's not a better fish and chip place than that?
Well, it's where I've been to, and it's, I think it's the biggest Wetherspoons in this country. It's on about 4 different floors, seriously.
Right,
it's just around the corner from the Cascades shopping centre, on the road back down to the foot ferry.
OK.
Yeah.
Now, here's one from Becky, who says, Mike, I have some public speaking coming up as a student of language, a man of the people, orator of renown. Do you have any tips for me?
Yeah, the tips I've got are that you've got to address your audience on a personal level. So, for instance, if it's a public speaking engagement on why we have to save trees because too many trees are being chopped down or something like that, then you must give a personal example of a tree that you know and a tree that you love and a tree that you cherish.
Or one you've even climbed recently.
Or one you've climbed, or perhaps one that your father built a tree house in for you when you were a kid and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Or take a piece of bark in with you. Take a piece of bark in and say, look at this. This is one of nature's most precious commodities. What is it? You say it's a piece of tree bark.
So a prop is a good idea then.
Yeah, exactly. Or take a branch in with you. Take a branch in and sweep the floor with it and say, this is where trees started their existence in cohabitation with man.
Yeah.
But these days, What we do with trees now is we use them to make our planet look better, not to supplement our planet because we've got nothing else to do with them.
Right, I'm sure that's very helpful.
Okay.
She's talking about trees.
Yes,
If she's not talking about trees,
yes.
I'm not so sure. Here's one from Gazman. He says, I'm on holiday in Bognor and have tried the I'm a friend of Mike Parry line with the chicks, but no joy. Can you help?
Well, if you're in Bognor, what you should do is head for the local Butlins holiday camp because it's brilliant, OK? All Butlins holiday camps are brilliant.
And you're an ambassador for Butlins?
No, I'm not an ambassador for Butlins, but that's where we used to go on holiday when we were kids. We used to load up into the Morris Traveller and we went to Pwllheli in North Wales, Butlins, to Filey in North Yorkshire, Butlins, and to Bognor Regis. And the one to Bognor Regis from Chester was the longest journey in the history of man.
Was it?
There was no M6, there was no M1, there was no M25. You just, drove on A roads all the way from, the Wirral.
Well, you went down the A6, I guess,
No, went down the A41, actually.
Okay.
And that goes down the west side of England, then cut across the Midlands, then turn right. But, I mean, getting round London, you had to go straight through London. To
North Circular, South Circular.
Yeah, I suppose so, but they weren't called North Circular, South Circular in those days. It's called the A406. And eventually arrive at Bognor. So head for Butlins, mate. And the other thing at Butlins is, of course, you get those very, very sexy redcoat girls who look absolutely lovely in those red blazers and those white pleated skirts.
Okay.
And, of course, the chaps as well look incredibly elegant in their red blazers and white slacks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, this is a bit of a deep one from Tim.
Okay.
He says, what's it all for, really, Mike? Life.
The meaning of life is a relationship between you and the person who you think created you and the person who you think you're going to meet after your life on Earth is over and you move on somewhere else. I don't know the answer, and nobody does, because nobody's ever come back. There aren't time travellers. If there were time travellers, guys would be walking around millionaires because they'd be able to predict the outcome of races that they were aware of as a time traveller, so it doesn't happen, OK? Now, the universe is so huge. I mean, it's so massive. I mean, our galaxy is in the Milky Way, right? And our universe is in the Milky Way. The Milky Way is only about sort of, 1/1,000,000th of what's out there, and yet it would take you, 3 light years to get across the Milky Way. So the thing is that heaven, wherever it is so far away you can't come back. That's the truth of the matter, OK? We don't come back, but we go on and do something else. I would love to believe that heaven is Valhalla, and Valhalla is where you fight all day, you get your limbs cut off, your head cut off, and all that. But what happens when the whistle blows at the end of the day? All your limbs come back, they grow again. You go in the tavern.
It's like a massive video game. Then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you go back in the tavern, you get sloshed all night, and then you go to sleep, and then next day you start all over again. I hope it's a little bit like that, but I don't know.
Don't talk sport, really.
I don't know.
I don't know how much
that,
time we've got, but Jonathan says this. My fridge is packed in. Any other suggestions for keeping my vino cool other than my car boot in the summer?
Well, funny you should say that, but I was looking around some historical old home not so long ago, and they have what's called the ice hole. And the ice hole, and that's where places like Downton Abbey, when they didn't have fridges in those days. Okay, they dig this huge pit in the ground, and they would line it with sort of brick and all that kind of stuff, and that's where they'd store ice.
Yeah.
The ice was brought.
Where would they make the ice from then?
Well, it was brought on an ice lorry from an ice factory.
Well, where did they make the ice? Was there any fridges?
They froze it in circumstances which were known only to the ice manufacturers in those days, right? And they would store. No, they would.
Specialists.
Yeah, they would. They'd store it in huge holes underground, and the ice didn't melt.
Carry it on a lorry that wasn't refrigerated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they would.
So how did it get there?
Well, it melted a bit by the time it got there, but it didn't have to travel very far because each town had its own ice factory. Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, luckily they managed to keep it a secret.
And you get a lot of ice from Iceland. Well, not from Iceland, but I mean from the Arctic Circle, which they'd put into ships and bring back to this country. Yeah. It didn't all melt before they got here. Yeah. They did in the winter.
It's a bit complicated for a guy to keep his wine cool.
No, hang on. You've got
dig an ice hole.
You've got to remember, we used to have winters in this country in the Victorian times, which were so severe, you could have 12 inches of ice on the River Thames. So what you'd do is you'd skate around on that, light bonfires on it, and then chop it all up and go and put it in the ice house for the summer.
For the vino.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much indeed. As ever, a full
Absolutely.
selection of very informative answers to a lot of very interesting questions.
Yeah.
And if we didn't read one of yours out, we apologise, but we will keep them all, and we will get to them all, I'm sure, at various points throughout the course of the year. And there'll be another version of Ask Porky coming up next week. However, tomorrow night, of course, it's going to be the Porky Vision scenario.
It certainly is.
And on Thursday, a quiz on the Romans.
A quiz on the Romans. What did the Romans do for us?
The sun has got his hat on, hip 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 hooray! The sun has got his
weather song?
It is a weather song. Yeah, great song, that, I think. Very cheerful song.
Makes you feel cheerful, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. I like that song, yeah, it's a good song.
It's a spring in your step.
Yeah, it
hey,
does.
by the way, I meant to mention this to you yesterday, because it was in one of the papers yesterday. Did you see that story about Nancy Delolio, who is apparently being chased for a load of money that she supposedly owes? Yeah,
allegedly.
Do you think that's a result of her falling out with Sven, you think?
Well, I think that was one of the messiest breakups we've ever come across, isn't it? The story goes that Sven let her stay in a very expensive £5 million property near Regent's Park for 3 years after they kind of split up. And it was a long, protracted split because she was not that keen on splitting up with Sven. He was more keen on it than she was. But the point of the story is she then, of course, branched out on her own, in her own right, and started promoting things and all that kind of stuff. But that work seems to have dried up. And she's fallen, allegedly, into the trap that a lot of us fall into. If you are self-employed and all that, you spend the money as it comes in. And at the end of the year, taxman says, well, 40% of that belongs to me. And then you find you haven't got it. And that means problems.
And not much chance of him rescuing her, I don't think, is there?
Well, he's had a disastrous financial situation. He's lost over £10 million.
Yeah, he lost all that money in property and stuff, didn't he?
Well, it wasn't that. Apparently, according to his own story, which I read in his own words, he took on a financial advisor, and this guy, who was said to be a financial guru and a genius, lost him £10 million. Now, it's not quite clear whether the suggestion is that the chap in concern, who we've not named, was purloining some of the money for his own use.
I think he just wasn't a very good investor.
Or whether he wasn't a very good investor. That's right. Who knows?
Shocking. Now, I saw a story the other day about charcoal. Now, you might remember there was a few months ago, you said there was definitely some benefits to taking charcoal pills, and you were thinking you might take a few of them. And I don't know if that's still going on, or whether you've decided to chuck that particular idea.
No, I did some research on this, funny enough, you should say about that, and the latest scare is about putting charcoal content into these smoothies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, these smoothies, to start off with, are very controversial, because when you put a load of fruit into a blender, as it is, which is a machine which basically cuts it up to nothing and turns it into liquid.
Into mush.
Mush and liquid. I mean, according to the reports I've read, all you're left with is a huge bowl of sugar. Because what counteracts the sugar in fruit is the pith and stuff around it, which has fibre. And if you're...
This is why they say it's dangerous for kids to drink too much fruit juice, just completely like very fresh fruit juice, because the sugar will rot their teeth.
Absolutely. If you eat an orange after you've taken the outer peel off, you've still got pith on that orange. You know, you've still got, like, bits of the white pith stuff.
I don't think we've ever done a show where you've mentioned pith quite as much as tonight.
No, well, I'm mentioning pith, you know.
There you go again.
Yeah, pith. And the point is, because the orange has a skin, I don't think it's called pith, but you know what I mean, the orange skin, that has fibre in it, and that counteracts the sugar, and that's a very good and healthy blend. However, when you've reduced the pith to nothing, and it's just mashed up, and there's nothing there, ground up, all you're left with is juice, and that means all you're doing is ingesting huge amounts of sugar. Now, you can, imagine if you're eating a plum. A plum's got skin on it, and it's quite nice. It makes it feel like you're biting into something. Yes, that's right. But if you put that in a blender after you've taken the stone out in the middle, it's to mush. Now, what they're doing now
do you not put the skin on into the blender as well, then? You just get rid of
that? No, you put the skin into the blender, but what I'm saying is it's cut up so finely that the fibre content of the skin is no longer available to your insides. You see what I mean? It's reduced to nothing. Now then, what's happening now is, and this is a drink which I understand has been championed by people like Gwyneth Paltrow, is that they take the old smoothie, which is bad enough on its own, you know, without the old pith and all that kind of stuff.
I must say I'm not a big fan of them. I don't really drink
them.
No,
I don't either. I hate them. I think they're ghastly. And they put charcoal in it.
The only thing I use a blender for is to make pina coladas, really, to be honest.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, or margaritas, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds good, that, but it sounds a bit exotic for you, that.
Well, no, I'm a great fan of cocktails.
Give me a pina colada. Who wrote that and sung that?
I can't remember.
Wasn't his name...
Isn't it If You Like Pina Colada?
If You Like Pina Colada.
It's got rain in it as well. Is that a weather song?
No. That's
or Getting Caught in the Rain. Isn't that the next line?
You do your crying in the rain.
No, that's a different song.
Right, now listen, let's go on about these smoothies, right?
Yeah.
So now Gwyneth Paltrow buys this stuff at £6.50 a bottle because it's got charcoal in it.
What stuff?
The smoothie with the charcoal. This is the latest drink.
This is a smoothie with charcoal added?
Yeah, the charcoal added into the smoothie.
And is that to give you more fibre?
Well, it says the charcoal has been activated, meaning that steam has been forced through it after the burning process, and this makes it more efficient at absorbing toxins.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be taking toxins out of your body. But
Wouldn't it be easier just not to put the toxins in the first place?
Well, I don't know.
Rather than having to do all that.
No, it absorbs toxins in your body, in your gut.
Yeah, right.
You see what I mean? Right. So, you know, I mean, sometimes if people have sort of a dicky tummy or something like that, told take charcoal pills. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, you mentioned charcoal pills a while ago.
I did,
That's why I meant.
Yeah, I decided not.
Okay.
Now then, but it says doctors are warning that drinking the substances can actually stop medications from working by sucking them out of the body. So what it means is, like me with my 22 heart tablet a day, right? If I was to drink one of these smoothies with the charcoal in it, the charcoal would have a negating effect on the heart tablets that I take. I could end up dead, which is not a good situation.
It's not a good situation.
Not a good situation for TalkSport or anybody else, you know what I mean? And particularly me. Because the charcoal would then suck the usefulness of the medication out of your body before they can be absorbed into the blood system.
I mean, can the charcoal be kind of absorbed by your body, or does it just sit there?
Well, it says here, if you're going to take one of these smoothies which got charcoal in it, do not take any medication which is required for health reasons in the 2 hours before you drink that smoothie, because it'll suck the stuff out of your body.
Blimey.
And this is another health warning. I'm right on top of the health things. I read all the health bulletins and magazines, all this, because, of course, I have to keep a lookout for that breakthrough.
But, I mean, as many people often ask me with the amount of pills that you take, I mean, that can't be good for the lining of your stomach to take that many kind of actual pills.
The main worry, when you take that many tablets, and I've been taking them now for 10 years, is that they will damage your kidneys.
Yes.
Because your kidneys have to cope with all the toxins that are in your body, right?
Yeah. So maybe the charcoal would be good for you then.
Well, no, I'm not sure it would, because it would negate the medicine. Now, I have a blood test every 6 months, either back at Harefield, where I am an outpatient, or I go to my local sort of surgery and get a nurse to do it, something like that. And those are then sent to a laboratory, and the laboratory sends back the results, and the doctor will tell me what's right, wrong, and everything else. So far, there is no damage.
That's good.
But I can't keep taking these tablets all my life.
No, absolutely not, no.
Because eventually it'll pack up.
Well, what would happen if you didn't take them, though?
My heart would pack up. There's no doubt about it. My heart has only kept going.
When will you reach a point where you can not take them and still live?
Well, I won't know much about it. It'll all be over by then, so it won't really matter. The main tablet I take is called Carvedilol. I have to take 4 of those a day. It's 100 milligrams or whatever, or millilitres or something. And if I didn't take those, the old ticker would deteriorate very, very rapidly.
Blimey.
Now, the point is, the reason I keep a very close eye on medical developments is that I am certain that very soon I'll be able to be called into the hospital, one injection into the lining of my heart will repair my heart, and I'll be a normal person again. How about that?
I don't think you'll ever be normal.
Well, no. I mean, as far as the... I mean, you know, as I have mentioned occasionally, only 1/3 of my heart works.
Yes, I have heard
Now,
that.
I'd like the other 2/3 to start working again to make me a normal person in terms of physique.
Yes.
No, physicality.
Yes.
Yes, physicality,
And
not
your
physique.
ability to do that. Well, I've got some good news for you on that front.
Yeah.
There's another story this week that said that you can actually keep fit and stay fit by doing as little as 3 minutes exercise a week. Just 3 minutes.
I had a look at that, and I'm not sure about this. This is one of these magic sort of health regimes, okay? And what this guy says he does is his intense 3 minutes a week.
Right.
And he
does it all at once, right? He doesn't have to do it for the rest of the week.
Does it all at once, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's the 1 minute workout. You get on a sturdy exercise bike.
Yeah.
You go very gently, about 50 Ws. I don't know what that is.
50 watts?
Watts, I suppose. If your bike has an indicator of the power you're pedalling at.
Yeah.
And you do that for 2 minutes. Then you set the bike to maximum resistance and cycle as hard and as fast as you can for 20 seconds.
Right.
Then you switch the resistance back down low and cycle gently for 2 minutes, followed by another full burst on of 20 seconds. Then do another gentle 2 minutes, another crazy 20 seconds, and finally a gentle 2 minutes to cool down.
That's not the same guy. That's more than 3 minutes we're talking about. It's meant to be 3 minutes a week.
I don't know. This is the
and
exercise regime.
You were supposed to have had an exercise bike, but then you decided you didn't want it, did you?
I didn't. I did, yeah. It was too
by
big.
the way, talking of cycling, did you see that there was a big crash in the Tour de France the other day?
Oh, yes.
But there was another one apparently yesterday.
God, it was terrible when you saw them all caught up. One guy dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah, but this was the one yesterday, 2 days ago. The one yesterday, and I'm sure I heard Lisa O'Sullivan saying this when she was talking to the boys on Talk Sport about it, that some guy had cut his arm, but she said he's a haemophiliac.
Oh.
Right? Which means, you
won't stop bleeding.
The blood doesn't stop coming out.
Yeah.
And she said there's a lot of blood, and obviously he'll have to get treatment, because they've got rules about what treatment you can get, because obviously what happened to Lance Armstrong. But imagine that. Imagine being a haemophiliac and being a cyclist.
Yeah.
So that if you were actually in any danger of getting a cut,
mad.
you could die.
It's mad.
It's an amazing race, isn't it?
Well,
I have to say, I didn't really know much about the Tour de France until a few years ago, when everybody suddenly got interested in it. But it is a remarkable kind of, endurance test, isn't it?
We had, when I worked in another paper, there was a guy there who was a mad cyclist, right? And he used to, cycle to work before it became fashionable and all that kind of stuff. We used to mock him and all this kind of stuff, because he looked stupid in his cycling gear and all that kind of stuff. But at weekends, he would go out and be a marshal in these, races. You go out in the country at weekends, see all these cyclists.
We had a neighbour who used to go off and ride for miles and miles and miles every weekend.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'll tell you what happened eventually. He was a useless journalist. I mean, he was a correspondent, on the Birmingham Mail. He was useless.
Yeah.
And
don't give his name.
I'm trying to remember what his name was.
No,
he was so useless I can't even remember, to be honest. I think his name was David, but I mean, there's lots of Davids in the world. Yeah.
He's still alive.
But anyway, it was one of my great acts of philanthropy was philanthropy.
Yeah.
I was told by the bosses at my paper I had to get rid of this guy because I was running the London office.
Yeah.
They said he's useless, he's not worth it, he wastes space, and I said that's a bit callous and harsh. So what I did is I went round the corner and saw the bloke who ran Cycling Magazine.
Yeah.
And I got him a job as a reporter on Cycling Magazine.
That was nice of
So
you.
I didn't have to sack him. And it looked
very
like
uncharacteristic.
it looked like he left us, you see what I mean?
Right.
It was something I felt I had to do.
Right.
Just one of my
Extraordinary.
contributions to making the world a better place.
That's the only nice story you've ever told about your career.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just that you bend my stories in all sorts of different directions to make me look like an ogre, when in fact I'm not.
Yeah, well,
I'm in fact one of the kindest people you've ever met. I don't know what you're laughing at.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, indeed. Unfortunately, we're out of time, though, so we've got no more time for your lovely stories.
I'd love to tell you about my kindness. We've got another show tomorrow,
We
right?
have.
So I've got another 3 hours to tell you all about it then.
Yeah.
I'll list a few between now and then and let you all know about it,
Look
okay?
forward to it. Don't forget
Great.
to watch some TV for Porky Vision as well.
Oh, I've watched loads this week, don't worry.
There's lots of that to do. And the quiz on Thursday night will be about the Romans, okay?
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
What about all the Beach Boys songs?
Yeah.
Fun, 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 till a daddy takes the T-bird away.
There's a beach and weather word.
Well, California's full of weather. In fact, there's no weather. In fact, there's not even... In fact, there's not even any rain in California at the moment.
No.
And there hasn't been for a while.
Well, there is still weather, though.
Now, the thing is, because I'm smart than the average bear, I've been driving around the countryside looking at farms.
Yeah.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.